well, shit happens in war. No, listen, honestly, that's just like glossing over the fact that innocent people have died. Um, but here's the thing: how do I feel about this? Honestly, I'm a little on the fence myself because I don't mind there being a memorial, but memorials should not be our main focus. If we really want to pay tribute to our veterans, we got to make sure that they got plenty of funding. We got to make sure that their VAs don't close down. We got to make sure that the people that work at the VAs are well taken care of. We also want to make sure that, we're not just throwing drugs in the direction. We actually want to make sure they're getting actual quality care regarding this. That's what I care more about. Now, listen, if when every veteran or like especially homeless veterans are off the streets, then we can talk about memorials. But I think our priorities are a little fucked up right now, honestly, because we dedicate more to like memorials and stuff like that than we should be focusing on our civilian populace, especially the veteran community. Now, I don't know how far people are going to want to take this, but that's just my initial beliefs on that, and I'll land there.
Thank you so much, Alex. Let's go to our friend Tom.
Um, yeah, I'm not sure I have like much thoughts on this overall. Like I personally, I don't know if I even give a fuck about it at all. But I do think that like memorials are lionizing things. I think that necessarily that's what a memorial is. Like we don't have like Nazi memorials or Confederate memorials. We do have museums that will talk about these things, but we generally don't like memorialize them because it is lionizing to some extent to have the memorial. It's just, what is it lionizing? And I think that having the paying tribute to the troops who went over there to fight, I do think that there were things to fight in the war on terror. I do think that there were bad guys to go after. I think that there were people that should have been found, but whether or not they were actually doing a good job of that or actually even trying after a while is a different story. But I think I was going to say, similar to what Alex said, is it seems like a lot of times we spend a lot of money on stuff like this that could be going towards much better use than some weird looking art project for them to feel good about what it is that they did. I think overall, like, the government needs to make being a military member look like a good thing. They need to make sure that they are, I guess, paying tribute to those people and making it seem like a glorious job. And so regardless of how we feel or whether or not they did good things, I think the government still kind of has to make it seem that way one way or the other. So I don't really fault them for any of this, but yeah, I don't know that I have like very specific feelings on it myself.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, our good friend Lagtwit has just made opening statements. Thanks for being here. I'm sure things were hectic in your life, but I appreciate you still making the time.
Always, always, always.
Muted,
Hello.
I believe.
You're muted.
In StreamYard.
As much as I prefer it, I still can't.
How am I coming through? Am I coming through now? Sound good?
Good. Yeah.
Привет, comrades. We are here to talk
All right, you
today
should go
about
back on mute. Back on mute.
memorial. Giant statue. Okay. I mean, look. This is apparently not funded at all through taxpayers. This is apparently entirely funded through donations. It's pretty based, right? That's pretty cool. I'm not buying it. I got no problems with a memorial generally, like if it's dedicated to the lives lost of our American servicemen and women. So that's pretty cool. I think that as much as I despise a lot of the international entanglements that America has gotten into, especially in the Middle East, a lot of people have, given a whole bunch or everything to fight for our country. And unfortunately, I'll say it too, a lot of them were unfortunately misled to their doom, which is sad. And I think that we should remember that too. I think the fact that this is an ongoing war, I mean, you have to pick at some point a time to build a memorial. I'm not confident that there ever would have been a time that we could build this memorial in which we could say, oh, the Middle Eastern wars, thank God they're over. I don't know if we're ever going to hit that point. It seems like this shit keeps coming up over and over and over again, all over the fucking area, and that it's going to keep coming up. And so I think, I think at some point you're going to, make a memorial. This is non-taxpayer funded. It's a memorial to remember the men and women that have died, not the blunders that we've been involved in. So I think it's pretty non-controversial. I think it's pretty good. I would like, though, for when we look at stuff like this, to remember, same thing with the Vietnam Memorial, same thing with maybe less so with the Korean Memorial, but to think about, yes, these men and women gave their lives. And the follow-up question should always be for what, right? That should always be the follow-up question, because the whole point is to try to avoid these kind of memorials in the future. Ideally, we should be building things other than memorials if we can avoid it. So.
Thank you for that. Tom, we have Confederate memorials. What was that? I don't understand. We have Confederate memorials in this country.
Yeah, but I do understand his point, because they are criticized for memorializing and lionizing.
I mean, they're just
taken
now
down
being,
a lot.
And those were
like, so seriously.
but those were.
Oh, you're talking about, yes, in general there are Confederate memorials. I'm saying there isn't a Confederate memorial that is that is considered a a part of this country. It's not like a
or state.
It's not something that our federal government. Yes, yeah. It's not something that our federal government would do or anything like that, right?
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, we had Confederate statues within the rotunda, if I'm remembering this correctly. In terms of, remember those hopefully I'm not giving misinformation here, but
right. But that is the whole argument against them, though, is that this is literally, I live in Georgia. When I fight with people about this, when they're like, well, this is part of our heritage, I was like, well, that's bullshit. We're not celebrating it. It's just part of our history. No,
you could just put it
it's
in
not.
museum.
Germany doesn't have fucking Nazi statues up of Hitler and shit like that. You put it up to memorialize it, or you put it up in a fucking museum. It's one or the other. But if you're putting it up in the middle of your fucking city park, then yes, no, you are memorializing this. You are lionizing it.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of these statues that the Confederate statues were put up, they weren't even put up after the Civil War. They
just about to say that,
They were put up well within the Civil Rights movement. Let alone the fact that in the capital of Tennessee, outside their state capital, they had Nathan Bedford Forrest, a bust of his head. He was actually one of the founders of the KKK, actually. So they were memorializing it. They had this creepy statue off of a main interstate in Tennessee glorifying this guy. And I know people say, oh, well, you know who found the KKK. It's oh, come on, please. It was offshoots of the Confederacy. They realized that they lost. So they fucked off to Tennessee, and then they formed the KKK and then went on from there. Basically, that's the history of it. I mean, that's just the condensed version.
I could easily have my mind changed based off of the conversations that are happening in the memorial, but there's probably quite a bit of a difference between a couple different things. The first, which is a statue of someone who's objectively evil or has objectively done harm to the country, like a Robert E. Lee type, or
but there are Robert E. Lee from what, if I remember, there were people defending.
Correct, and I'm against those people. I think that it's silly to have a Robert E. Lee statue.
But
even he's not so.
But yeah, you say objectively evil, but
even Robert E. Lee said that there shouldn't be statues. He was actually very much against statues.
What's your point, Corey?
No, I'm just
no, Corey. What's your point?
Okay.
Well, in my mind, I could be wrong, but using the language of objectively evil is a little bit loaded.
Okay, fine, sure, whatever. Things that people usually
everything's subjective. Not Hunter, everything.
I mean, look, I do believe it's subjective ethics. I'm not going to get into that.
Language is subjective.
Something we all agree on.
Largely speaking, Americans aren't in favor of and think is bad. Okay, I can use my language a little bit more carefully here. That is probably different from a Thomas Jefferson, who has extremely muddled legacy, right? Obviously quite a hypocrite, obviously raped his slave, obviously still wrote our foundational document that we still use to this day. So having a statue of him and then also trying to recognize that sort of contradiction is probably okay. Like that's probably different from having a Robert E. Lee who's just
But
like,
is that like I'm a fan of Thomas Jefferson, but I don't think that he should be memorial. At least I don't think there should be like dedicated. I don't think he should be lionized. I think that puts.
you
him
don't
on
think
a pedestal.
anyone should be lionized. So like
Yes,
that doesn't
I-
really
yes.
count.
Be true, fair. But like
Okay.
so.
But-
Okay, go
I
ahead.
haven't even really gone through my thing. There's a difference between
Well, too
one
bad.
dude
I'm
who's
going
like
to interrupt
bad,
for one.
one dude who's bad, a second dude who's like muddied, and it's kind of like I don't know, like there's definitely some bad things, but that's not what we're memorializing him for. And the third thing is not a person at all, just like an event that was hard to grasp. And I think that like the first one is like definitely bad, and the second one is like the second and third are all right. Like, and I think that we muddy the waters when we start bringing in the conversations about the first thing.
I would argue that you were I think you remove the nuance from individuals like Thomas Jefferson because like that's where I don't think people like but due to the fact that he's put on a pedestal, people just automatically granted, oh, he must be like an exceptional person.
Hold on. There is literally a memorial of
He
Thomas
was
Jefferson in
exceptional.
the Black American History Museum in DC. I went there and it was fucking incredible. There was this statue of Thomas Jefferson, and then behind him it said all men are created equal. And then you walk into the next room and it's it's dedicated to Sally Jennings. And it's like, well, like it's meant to show that hypocrisy. So like you just going like, well, we can't put a statue up. It's like, well, we can have these conversations actually. And we can.
No, that is a fair.
Wait a minute, hold on. That's not a memorial, though. I'm not sure. Oh, sorry. Maybe we might actually want to take some time to define what a memorial is.
Sure, I can. Sure.
Yeah.
I understand.
Because like I'm not sure. Yeah. So like I'm not sure if just a statue becomes a memorial, right? Like I haven't been to that museum that you're referring to, but from your very very short description, right? That just seems like a display that like shows that's supposed to show that a contradiction, right? That's supposed to be like
or a more comprehensive
like
view of the person.
Against yeah, right. So that seems different from a quote unquote memorial. But I'm willing to get pushback on this one. But
I'm in favor of any sort of like whatever little tablet or no, what are they called? The fucking thing,
plaque.
The plaque. Thank you. That's the word.
Fucking
you got that vocabulary.
Got all that abstract language.
The plaque in front. I think you could put some controversial stuff in there. You could say, hey, he's a conflicting figure. I think Thomas Jefferson, it's okay to mention that he had slaves and he had daughters. He had children with those slaves, and I believe he enslaved those kids of his. Just fucking crazy. That's crazy. I could be wrong about that. I don't remember it exactly, but I don't know.
Okay. So, well, are you done? Your point?
Go ahead.
Okay. So a few things, both to Hunter and to Lactoid, but starting with Hunter. So, okay, let's say, for example, magically somehow the war with Iran is ended, next week or next month, and then Trump wants to immediately erect a memorial for that. Are you in favor of that?
Sorry, erect a memorial for what?
For the war with Iran.
It depends on what that like. I don't trust it because it's coming from Trump.
Okay. So you're not in favor of every memorial.
If it was to the people who like the U.S. service people who died.
It's in the same vein as like your typical like pretty much whatever. Come up with abstract art and then names of the people that lost their lives or were injured during it.
I think I'd be okay with that, but like what I wouldn't be okay with is like a giant statue of Trump with like his head, like foot on like Khomeini's head or whatever.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Like holding up a rifle. Like,
I'd have
a problem with that.
Yeah, but Hunter, you would be okay with a standard.
Kind of
memorial.
badass, but it'd be
it depends. Okay. It depends. Not standard. I wouldn't say standard because standard has a lot of load-bearing language there.
Sure, fair. Yes.
Okay. Like I think that in World War II, I think it's fair to go a little hoorah. I think it's a little fair to go, yo, we fucking.
I don't disagree. That's why I think I said in my opening statement, like I
would consider that a standard memorial, and I don't think that would be appropriate for the war on terror.
But you said you seem to be in favor of like just about memorials in general, as in like you should not. So why not?
You said standard, and I'm pushing back against that language.
Okay,
I think that we can memorialize things and contextualize them in like I think the memorial does, and like I don't know, maybe people have different interpretations, but it seems a little like hey, we're not going to just memorialize every single person who was killed in this war because it's complicated. I think there could be bold statements being made, and it definitely doesn't scream hoorah, and neither does the Vietnam War Memorial, which I've been to. Like neither of those really scream hoorah. It's a moment of like.
I did say in my opening statement that the ambiguity of the global war on terrorism might be reflected in the design of the memorial.
Yeah. And the Vietnam War is very contemplative. There's like a mirror, and it's very like you sit there and you feel, and it's just sort of like it's kind of dark.
Oppressive.
It feels, yeah, definitely. Like it's not a great feeling, and I think it's on purpose, you know. And I think those are good memorials that are like, let's think about this, and like.
Well, then, like, is it really a memorial? I get
Well,
that's
okay.
a philosophical question, but like,
well, then I would say what we're discussing right now, the war on terror, is not a memorial. Then
okay, yeah, that's fair.
So then your conversation about a memorial is not part of this conversation.
Applicable, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. But then to Lactoid, would your feelings change on this memorial if it was taxpayer funded?
He'd just be against it on principle.
Be against it on principle, I think it mostly. Although, I mean, I would just be, but I'd be pretty mildly against it, right? I mean, I don't think this is going to make or break the U.S. debt crisis. But
yeah, that's another.
The fact that it's not taxpayer funded makes me a lot more okay with it. I'll say that.
That's another thing. I'm gonna criticize a little bit. Shoot, I'm sorry. What is your name?
Alex.
My friends here.
I'm going after Alex. I apologize. Not by that much. Not really by that much. But like this conversation about like why don't we give vets healthcare? Why are we giving them a memorial? Like it is pennies to thousands of dollars in terms of, and that's in reference to a penny. It is probably 10,000 times the budget of this memorial. So the conversation about a budget often gets like I'm happy to have conversations about big scale items like that, but in terms of a memorial that probably costs like, I don't know, how much did it cost? Like $1 million to be made? I don't know. I made that number up. Maybe it's not, but it always feels weird in terms of like giving every vet healthcare is such a huge cost. That's like, I would bet like 5% of our budget. I don't know. I also made that number up. Who knows? But
I did. I watched a bunch of like other people from
make up those numbers on that math
war
exam tomorrow.
In a bunch of people from like the war in Afghanistan and crap talking about the fact that they've like kind of been waiting for this for a while, and that a lot of them are upset that like so many people have continued to die after like not even being part of the war anymore, and that they would like for it to be built soon enough to where it's actually like some people are still alive to actually see it. And, to that point, I guess that makes sense of it. When I look at I think it was the Vietnam memorial, even though the World War II memorial, I think was built in like 2002, the Vietnam memorial was built in like the 80s. So there's, it seems like some of these are built fairly quickly and then others are built way later.
Well, here, when it comes down to memorials, like listen, I've already stated that like I'm a little on the fence, but I'm okay with them putting it up there. But like I said, if you're gonna put down like Iraq, you're gonna put down those that were killed in action, fine. Afghanistan killed in action, fine. That's great.
What about friendly fire? Does that happen even? I don't actually know.
I don't think it's ever happened. I don't think it's
as in like it's included in the memorial, like this person died
you
by
listed
friendly
as a
fire.
name. Yeah,
I'm guessing they probably just list them as killed in action.
They're just going to put it down as list. They're not going to put it down as killed. That's all it's going to be, like killed in action. Like you could literally like die in a rollover and you're still technically killed in action essentially. But the thing is like there's actual websites that actually tell you like how people died. Like I can't remember. It's like Faces of the Fallen. You can literally look it up and it'll tell you how that person actually died.
AI says
AI
says that they're routinely included in lists, but that's whatever. Obviously,
which model? Which
Google?
Oh my God.
I don't fucking know. What does Google use?
Gemini. Move on. Come on, Alex.
Yeah, but the thing is like my only thing is just like a memorial is a great way to like take kind of reflect on it. And like I said, they keep it kind of open ended to like let everybody encourages reflection instead of just telling people what they should be thinking. But again, like when it comes down to a concept of war is a very, very complex thing, and I'm a firm believer that war happens because of failed.
The reflecting pool.
Well, and the thing is, like, war happens because of failed diplomacy, and a memorial. I see it there, but it's not really going to tell. Okay, why did this war happen? Because we all agree on here that the war in Iraq was not justified. And I'm sure some people's like, well, there are some like positives to it that like we overthrew a dictator, but that's not why we went there. We went there for supposed WMDs and stuff. Afghanistan, like we were there for 20 years and we gained nothing from it, basically. Like, and these are hard lessons and hard pills for us to swallow. But the thing is, though, is like it's people that make these decisions. Most of the people that are okay with sending us off to war never even served one day in the military, and it's unfortunate. Like, but the thing is like in a monument like this or a memorial like this, yes, you can have the memorial, but where's the actual lesson? Like, is that for somebody else to teach, or are they just going to expect people to kind of like, oh yes, we went over there, we kicked ass, we took names, end of story? Like, that's the thing I'm worried about. Like, everyone says, oh yeah, we did such great things in Vietnam. No, we didn't actually. There was like the My Lai massacre is a great example of, U.S. troops going way over the fucking top and committing massive war crimes. But we don't like to teach this stuff in school because people don't like us to be portrayed as the bad guy, and that's a problem.
I don't
I'm
think
gonna
it-
be
I
I'm gonna
don't think
be
it feels
so
good, though.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like Vietnam War is definitely nuts. Like you could maybe provide some massacres for like World War II. We definitely go hoorah. I think Vietnam we for sure go. Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
I think, and even in the moment, there was so much public backlash to it. There was just like I don't know. I think that we are a little bit nuanced about the Vietnam War. And I don't think anyone really. I don't know what people you're talking to, but I've never really met people who are in favor of the Vietnam War.
Admiral
even-
Gibbs.
Okay, well, he doesn't
Cognitive-
count as a person. So
Well,
that's,
I think
That's-
we could have. I think we could have prosecuted Vietnam in a way that I would have been okay with, but I just don't think we did. And I think that's like I think the other side of the argument is because nobody's going to call Vietnam a success.
right.
Nobody.
Admiral Gibbs probably would.
No, I don't think.
Really?
No, not
He's-
even Admiral Gibbs. He would say
I
like,
don't know if we would call
"Fuck,
it
we
a
lost it.
success.
We got to go back in." That's what he would say. Fuck.
True.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Cognitive dissonance actually said at least we got Rambo out of it, which is pretty funny
just when
That's
they
a good point,
when they
actually.
least see it coming. Now that we've lulled them into a sense of security, right?
Yeah.
By
The
being
long-term
allies with
strategy.
Vietnam, right? Yeah, by being allies and major trading partners with them. Now's the time to strike.
They're not expecting it coming. Yeah. So,
Our
Big
plan
red
all
flag.
along.
Yeah.
I
And them
like
becoming
the
capitalists. Sorry, go ahead.
I like the circular nature, like the nature of the memorial. Like it does to me feel like it's never ending. It's like it would have been better if they turned it into an.
Is that what
infinite-
you want?
Well, no, it's not what that's not
No,
what
but
I
it's
want. But
reflective.
that's
It's like,
reflective. Yeah.
This shit continues.
What I would like to them to do is to like twist it into an infinity sign. That would be awesome. That'd be really good.
That would actually be more accurate.
It is
because
really
the thing
pretty.
Is, it's
I'll
because
be
it's
right
never
back,
going to end.
but I can still
Like,
hear you.
Yeah. The war on terror is something that's never, if you want to be completely realistic, it's never going to end. There's always going to be some asshole that's just got to, detonate a car bomb someplace, somewhere, and it's going to
Wow,
affect us, going to piss us
asshole.
off somehow, and we're going to have to go do something about it. I mean, it's a never ending cycle, essentially. I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but it's just true, though. I mean, like the best movie that I can think of that accurately portrays the global war on terrorism is the movie The Kingdom with Jamie Foxx. I mean, yeah, granted, they're not going to solve a crime that quickly, but that's exactly how the cycle is. You don't know who the good guy or the bad guy is, and you'll never find out until it's too fucking late, basically. That's like why I say it's one of the best movies out there when it accurately represents the global war on terrorism.
Well, I think what's really interesting is, we were all saying, yeah, it's sort of cyclical in that like it continues on, and we all sort of agree, like, man, that is what happens. And then Corey's like, yeah, but is that what we should be like? Is that how it ought to be? And like, obviously not. I don't think that memorial is supposed to reflect how it ought to be, though. I think it's just like it's a look at ourselves as human beings and go, isn't it the case that when we get smacked and you're the biggest guy on the field, you want to go bash some teeth in? You want to go smack someone on the concrete and smash their face in until they bleed out, and you get to feel good about yourself and you get to feel like no one can hurt you. Like, isn't that just a recurring cycle of nature that I would hope we can move forward? Obviously, we all think we should move forward from that.
Well,
I don't know that's obvious, but I take your point.
Everyone
really kind
here
of depends.
does, though.
yeah. So,
Well, it depends on what
although Gibbs
field
isn't
that you're
here.
fighting on. It depends on, like, if you're fighting in a predominantly urban conflict, it's gonna be way different than how you're fighting a rural conflict, like out in the middle of Korengal Valley in Afghanistan. Like the way you wage war, it's like that's the thing. Like it's an ever changing battlefield, and the thing is, like, even over there, like while we say we're on defense, on offense, we were actually playing a lot of defense over there, because here's the thing, like the Taliban is a great example. These guys were terrific when it came to utilizing the terrain against us, because the one thing that, and this is also happening in Ukraine and Russia, is if you knock out a logistics supply line, because logistics were the most attacked units in theater, and there's a reason for that, because they know if you knock out a logistics convoy, it's going to get harder for them to actually be able to deliver those materials to whoever needs those things. Like in Korengal, there was like this mountain, like now I wasn't in Korengal, but there's like this mountain where it was like really just a straight drop down. The Taliban actually attacked the front vehicle and the rear vehicle and basically pinned them. They had nowhere to go. It really kind of depends on how the wars that you waged are fought, basically. And if your enemy can actually control the higher elevation or control the terrain, they pretty much have a high advantage. It doesn't matter if they have like, you know, rocks and slingshots and rocket propelled grenades. It doesn't matter. Like you could throw whatever technology you have, they could bury themselves inside. It's really, it depends on the scenario you're in. But the thing is, we just don't seem to learn from these things. And that's why if we were to put boots on grounds in Iran, it would be devastating, because it's much more mountainous and it's much more devastating terrain than it was in Afghanistan.
Afghanistan is pretty mountainous. I don't know. I think it'd definitely be harder than with Iraq.
I don't think Iran is the same as Afghanistan. I think Iran would be
Yeah, I also agree
way
that
easier, especially considering the terrain.
I would also say that sometimes I think we're mixing a lot of the intentionality of these wars, which is sometimes, I don't know. I don't like the war on terror definitely does seem to be its own. I don't know if I would classify. Is Iran
Like the
considered
war on
part of the war on
drones.
terror?
Yeah. Well, let's
I
be
think
honest.
Trump probably considers it.
Let's
East.
be honest. The war on terror is just U.S. involved conflicts in the Middle East. That's what it is.
Sure.
I mean, that's what it is,
Okay.
straight up.
No,
And maybe North Africa too, and maybe like a little bit of Somalia. Like just generally like
Sure.
that band of like geography, like that is what we consider to be the terrorism, the fight on terrorism. Even
Mhm.
though does it actually happen elsewhere? For sure. But that's what we're talking about. So we're talking about Iraq. We're talking about Afghanistan. I think those two mostly. Probably a little bit of Iran. And then, you know, maybe some like Libya, Syria, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if we
Yeah,
lost anybody.
it sometimes feels so weird
Libya.
because the conflicts have evolved so much over the last 20 years. Like, as much as we're saying it's so cyclical, like, I don't know. I do think the reasonings for these wars are pretty fundamentally different. And American
Yeah, I feel like
attitudes.
Iran.
Really?
Yeah,
I feel like Iran is drastically different.
I so disagree. Every time, what's the justification? They have a weapon of mass destruction, or they're about to get a weapon of mass
but
destruction. We
the
got to
big-
stop them, or they pose some kind of national security threat. I mean, so
The big distinction I'm gonna point to is American attitude, and it is vastly changed since like early 2000s and now. Like back then, we were wanting someone to go to war with. Like,
Well, that's because
I still
you
remember that
you had
fucking
September 11th.
yeah, we got
we
hit
got
pretty hard
that-
on that one.
No, of course, that's what I'm saying. No, I
Yeah.
know that. Obviously, it's not justified. It's explainable. It makes sense why we did it.
Sure,
Why we were so angry.
which had nothing to do with Iraq, by the way, but a lot of people.
No,
just
of course.
kind of
Yes, I
merged the
know.
two.
Like, no. Obviously, and fucking Bush, you know, he recognized people just wanted to go to war with someone, and so he's like, well, fucking. Iraq,
that guy's kind of
good."
evil. Why? Let's just.
Yeah, and Iran definitely feels like I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's for American. It's because Americans are cheering for it. It feels like it's because Trump just sort of wants to suck Netanyahu's dick, and Netanyahu attacked them. So I don't know. It does. Maybe that's a distinction without a difference. I don't know what you guys feel, but
We
But then-
pretty,
Well,
I
no,
just
in
pretty much been at war for
9/11,
most
we
of
were
our-
actually attacked though, like, and there was like, you know, terrorism happening. Whereas with Iran, they're like, it's true that they're like, you know, the biggest state-sponsored terrorist country, but the difference is that's not the reason that we're going to Iran. We're not going to Iran for this. When you say like,
no, I agree. Yeah.
oh well, it's you know, oh, they have weapons of mass destruction. It's just not at all similar to the scenarios before,
very similar to
because
Iraq.
in this case they were it's not at all. It's not at all, because in this case they were actually enriching uranium. They like it's a
That is a pretty big
drastic
No,
difference.
no, hold on.
thing.
Wait. Stop. I'm talking about in terms of the justification and the like what was being proposed here for our action. When we went to Iraq, we had Dick Cheney saying that Iraq was either had or was imminently about to acquire
They have
weapons of mass destruction. Dick Cheney said this.
And you'll be
Yeah.
you'll be
Yes.
greeted as
I understand.
liberators.
He sold he sold this to the American people. This is the exact same justification for going in. The primary, are there other ones for sure, but there was other ones when it came to Iraq too. Saddam Hussein was not a good guy.
Right.
And yes, and Iran for sure is a major state sponsor of terror, including Hamas, which just October 7th carried a massive attack on civilians. And then we have the fucking Houthis, and yeah, it's a problem for sure. But the main justification that kind of goes back to is this, they have a weapon of mass destruction, or they're imminently going to get one. We have to intervene to stop them. We've used this with Iraq. We use this with Iran. We didn't really use it with Afghanistan, but with that one, it was more we already had the attack to justify that one, right? Like they're not working with us when it comes to getting Osama, and look what he did to New York. So obviously we have to go into Afghanistan. I think we did have a different justification for that, but ultimately it was sort of the same underlying justification, which is national security. This is the thing that's sold. We have to go over there so they don't fuck with us over here. That's
Well, isn't it like every intervention like just justified by national security, basically?
Yeah,
that's what he's saying. I don't
the
disagree.
Germans were a little more honest about it. There was like, we want to live there, so move or die. That was pretty much what they said.
Would you be in favor of that U.S. foreign policy?
No, I would not be in favor of that U.S. foreign policy, although it would be nice if I didn't get told that Iran was on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon every 5 years. Like, at some point, the verge needs to be,
Well, it can't now because it was obliterated, I think, last year. They have no capability.
Yeah,
of that. It was
true.
obliterated.
I guess we're good now.
Well,
You
Well,
can sleep
Netanyahu-
soundly now.
Netanyahu's been saying for 30 years that they are 2 weeks
Right.
away, 2 weeks away, 2 weeks away.
weeks
He's been
away,
saying
yeah.
it for 30 years. He's been saying this crap, and he's been wrong every single time. So that's one person we definitely got to get rid of, but that's never going to happen. That dude's going to be in office until he freaking dies, probably. So unfortunately,
There is a little bit of like, Boy Who Cried Wolf, though. Like, we know that Iran has centrifuges, right? It is possible that they do actually get a nuke at some point, and then, maybe I might have egg on my face if they actually do something crazy with it.
well,
but-
honestly, they were no. But the thing is, like, even the IAEA chair said that they were nowhere near close to it, and even Tulsi Gabbard, which I can't stand her, but even she said that they were nowhere near close to being a threat, and they said, "Fuck
She's
you, we're
great.
gonna do whatever the fuck we want to," and they just did it anyway. So it just goes to show it doesn't
Yeah, but
matter what the
nothing
intelligence
she
is.
says really counts.
What?
She's fantastic.
I
I
mean-
don't know what you guys are talking about.
All right.
So fantastic, she resigned, although I guess due to illness.
Well,
Due to
that
her
was
husband's illness.
her husband. Yeah,
Dude,
To
She
her
was,
husband,
she
like,
was
so.
she was one of the I think I said this before in the panel. I think she was like the one I was most excited about.
Yeah, you've said
Um,
multiple
Oh my
times.
goodness.
For her, and I liked Elon as well, but I was really pumped for Tulsi.
How's your
And now
SpaceX
she's
stock?
leaving.
Is it going good?
I
Yeah.
think so. I bought it at IPO.
Well, that's why you were so bullish on the war with Iran, because you're like, no way is that going to happen.
Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah, I had so
Tulsi's
many.
in charge.
I had so many good reasons to think that wasn't going to happen. The first one being is that back when I'm still positive on my. Yep, still positive.
How much?
$3. So with hey, that's $3 I didn't otherwise wouldn't
It's
have.
looking up.
Still beats inflation. But like you have
No way.
John Bolton, who's like the big pro Iran hawk. He gets fired by Trump because he can't stop talking about wanting to bomb Iran. And I thought we had a lot of the like kind of more neocon hawk Republicans sort of sequestered into at least a little bit of geopolitical irrelevancy. But apparently, Lindsey Graham, he's going to get his wish. There's a whole bunch of shit going on now that he's wanted forever, wanted. He's dead.
Hooray.
Well, I'm not going to say hooray. I disagree with him
I will. Don't worry,
geopolitically
I'll do it for
strongly.
you.
But yeah, I really did. And then Tulsi Gabbard, who literally sold shirts saying "No war with Iran," and I was like, "You picked
Yeah,
her.
But she
Yeah, they
this
got
is gonna be
slogans.
this is
Like,
gonna be
she-
based," and
she
then it
will always-
happened.
You know,
she will
you
always. How do you not recognize that she's going to do whatever that is to her advantage?
I
Like,
don't
she has
think-
actual
no, I-
values and principles.
Yeah.
I
and
don't
it's-
know. I don't think she did anything when she did not come out and support Trump's actions in Iran. She didn't come out and be like, "Yeah,
wait,
let's
no,
bomb
yeah, but
Iran."
she didn't condemn them. She didn't like reiterate
Yeah,
her message.
that's
of-
tougher. I agree. When you're hired by
Exactly,
somebody,
that's how you stand on principle and values. Is actually doing the tough thing.
yeah, getting
I-
fired
I don't know
immediately.
anything
You're
about
right.
that.
You're right.
She
Getting
did
fired
change her
immediately.
Yes.
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 Okay. Sure.
She
Lose all power.
Yep.
Yep.
She did change her tone on Iran when she got frozen out. We saw that. And in any case, right? Who else sold T-shirts? Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris sold T-shirts. She had T-shirts ready to go. When during the debate with presidential debate with Joe Biden, she hit with that line. You know, I was that little girl talking about the school busing thing, right? And then later
Yeah,
on,
it's a
she just like,
bullshit line.
And then Tulsi
Yeah, and then-
eviscerated her.
and then later on, she you're right, actually, yeah, she did. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, she did.
She actually
but
did.
then-
yeah.
It was
But
sick.
then
about
later
that.
on, she like took it back, right? It's like, oh yeah, I would do the same thing for busing. I'll make the same decision that Joe Biden made in terms of like trying to end school busing or not supporting school
Tulsi
busing.
never said she would go to war with Iran. I would do the same thing
Um,
Trump would do. She never said that. There's no way.
Oh, hold on. Did I say that?
No. Kamala said that.
No,
He's saying
I
Kamala
know.
said
I
that.
thought you were drawing
Okay.
comparison between what Kamala did with Biden and what
A direct
Tulsi
Oh
did
no,
with-
no, not exactly. I'm
Okay,
just saying that like you can just put lots of things on a shirt. It was my only.
Oh, sure.
Um,
Yeah, you could.
Yeah,
Put
yeah.
lots of things on a
Yeah,
shirt.
yeah.
One order
That's
online,
good.
really. You can put
Good
whatever
point.
you want on a
Yes.
shirt.
So,
Kamala would have been 100 times better though.
so
Don't
Iran-
talk to Prime about that.
Yeah. He's
Boo.
trying to bait me. It's cool. But in terms of
No, he just expected you to be a rational human being.
So speaking
Yeah,
about
just
memorials,
expects you to be
No
a
bait
human.
there.
so,
here I got a
you know,
question.
I wanna-
Just a human, really.
Speaking about memorials, what do we think about funding a country that has literal Nazi memorials? What do you guys think about that?
Shut the
Yeah.
fuck.
What do you guys think about that one, huh? Literal Nazis that worked with Hitler. What are your thoughts on that
I
one?
think
huh?
it's weird that my taxpayer
You're
dollars
talking
are
about
going to a
Donald
country
Trump?
with
No, he's talking about
Confederate
Ukraine. Are you
memorials.
guys fucking dumb?
Yeah, we are aware of that.
We know what he's
but
talking.
okay. Yeah.
Hey,
So
wait,
hold on.
Well,
I wanna-
here's
I wanna-
I'll kind of relate it to the topic real quick. Okay.
It is related to
So,
topic.
for example, Poland recently stripped their Order of the White Eagle because Ukraine held a funeral service for Melnik, who was a major World War II kind of Nazi figure. Do you think any country should strip us of any orders or recognition, depending on what kind of memorials we do? Like we talked about, maybe not this one, but like the Confederate ones are pretty bad, right? Like, would we find
Yeah.
it disrespectful if like Mexico said "fuck you"?
I wouldn't.
Well, what
I
about once the
wouldn't-
Mexican-American War? I mean, we took a bunch of shit from
wouldn't-
them.
I wouldn't want them to do it for the memorials. I wouldn't want them to do for the actual racist, destructive, imperialist actions that we take. Right. That's why punitive action should be taken against us. But so something more substantive than that. Okay.
Okay.
So going back to again, I apologize because I had to step away for a little bit. But I was hearing what you were saying. Yes, the Iran war. Right. There are clear parallels between the Iran war and the Iraq war. I think our friend Lactwood was correct there. In terms of why we went there, the excuse that was given to the domestic audience was quite similar. In fact, they just kind of like speed ran the Iraq war a playbook, right, for Iran, right? Like they didn't bother to do that. The very long buildup. They had to say, who knows? Like, there's a lot of weapons and like this evidence just keeps piling up and then going to the UN doing all that. There's like no. Like Israel told us once again that they're seconds away from a nuclear a mushroom cloud appearing in Miami, and so we had to strike. So like yeah, these are clear parallels here. Also, Iran should get themselves a nuclear weapon. That only makes sense for them, right? The U.S. is clearly untrustworthy. Once again, we're back
Canada
in the
needs a
war.
nuclear weapon.
Yeah. Sorry, Canada.
Over my fucking dead body.
I
will
mean,
go to war with
they
Canada
can,
so fast.
They can
think they deserve
have a nuclear
anything.
weapon once they've been annexed by us, right?
Yeah, once they're
and
the
we'll be-
51st state, they will
Yeah.
have a nuclear weapon.
No,
Exactly,
we need to
right?
crank up our centrifuges.
They'd be 50.
There are a lot-
We combine 2 other states. I can't fight for a country 51 states. It's
100%. Thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
yeah.
We'll combine the Dakotas. I don't fucking
Yeah.
care.
no. You guys,
Um,
no. If you guys get a blue state, we got to combine 2 of the blue states. Keep it fair.
That's all right. Well, what do you suggest?
Something in fucking New England.
New
I mean,
England, maybe.
yeah, like
So-
New Hampshire.
Nah, it's
and-
either
Vermont
the
and-
Dakotas
Vermont
or
and
the
New Hampshire.
Carolinas.
I'm okay with that.
So-
Yeah.
Anyway, Iran is similar in the way that our friend Lactwood was pointing out. And it's interesting. I think the question of like what counts as a global war on terror. I think Iran definitely counts just for no other reason, right? Ignoring everything else, for no other reason that George W. Bush, in the State of the Union address, listed Iran as part of the axis of evil, right? That was, I think it was Iraq, Iran, and North Korea, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Someone
that's
can
right.
correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. So like that was a huge moment in time when he said those, right? Like those nations, when he labeled that like framed how the nation, right, the American nation, society, viewed it. Who is the enemy? What had to be done, right? Like, what are the targets? Literally, Iran sent like condolences, like after 9/11, because they didn't have anything fucking to do with it, right? They weren't part of that. They sent condolences to America, and then they were surprised when that statement happened, right? And it was just like one. Like it wasn't like Bush who came up with that. Bush was a moron, right? You have another idiot Republican.
He was
But
actually
like
pretty
it was
smart,
one of his.
unfortunately.
Well, with Trump as the
Unfortunately.
I mean, in
baseline, with
comparison
Trump
to
as the
Trump.
baseline, yes,
No,
Bush is
no,
like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
no,
it's Trump's
very
not,
smart,
not in
yeah.
comparison to Trump. I'm
Yeah,
saying
he is.
generally, as the presidents go, he was relatively high IQ. He made,
Yeah, the
made
guy who says
many
He
major
tripped over his
mistakes.
own words.
He tripped over his own
that's
words a lot, but
Mhm.
he for sure
He-
like was not stupid. Unfortunately.
He was just no. I would say Bush was easily influenced because I think Dick Cheney was a smooth talker. That dude was a snake oil salesman. He was thinking, "Oh, big money for Halliburton and all the other fucking KBR contractors." Like that. I wouldn't say like George Bush was very easily influenced by the people that he
No.
surrounded himself with.
Sorry, I didn't mean to distract us. I didn't think I would get pushed back on like George Bush being smart. Okay, interesting. Well,
I think he's the worst president, to be clear. But I don't think he was stupid.
We
pretty
can
based.
bookmark that conversation.
That's
But
pretty
in any case,
based.
the point that I was trying to get to was that it was one of his speechwriters, right? Was it David Brooks? I don't know who was the one, right? But like it's a name that's known among like the political intelligentsia types, right? Whoever, someone can look it up, right? Who put that in to
can we?
the axis of evil? Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's out there. It's,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Guys, we can
But
all
anyway-
look things up if we want to.
Okay, I'm the point is that like that was placed within, and then like George Bush was like, oh yeah, I guess this is fine, and I'll read that, right? And Iraq was also surprised, right? Because Saddam Hussein was like, oh, the United States is going to come to me, right? Like we are going to work together, we're going to get these guys, I'm going to be their man in the Middle East, just like I was before. And it'll be a collaboration. But then they're being told, oh, you're part of the war on terror. Like they were fighting these motherfuckers for years beforehand, right? Like Al-Qaeda was their enemy. Like these types of people were exactly the type that like Saddam was keeping a lid on. He was shocked. But anyway, yeah. But still, again, like the point of where I was going with this was like what is included in the global war on terror, right? Like, okay, well, if it's the people who directly attacked us, okay, well then within Afghanistan that makes more sense. But Afghanistan itself didn't attack us. It was, a group that was in Afghanistan, right? Like we would feel the same if that group was based in Canada. I don't know. We would feel. I'm curious if we'd have the same reaction. But it was a group within Afghanistan. They attacked us, and so we attacked Afghanistan. Okay, part of the global war on terror. And then Iraq was, we were told, yes, they were also part. They attacked us too, and they were about to attack us again. And so that's part of the global war on terror. And then I like what our friend Alak had talked about before, because he expanded this, talked about like what was happening in North Africa. And maybe more Central Africa as well, where we've had, it's not part of our national conversation really, but like we've had massive bombing campaigns against like those various splinter groups, right? Al-Qaeda splinter groups or other terrorist splinter groups. That just like happens in the background and we don't even discuss. I mean, people get killed, right? And some people get killed over there, but like we don't even talk about that stuff. Like I can't like even give you like a good accounting of any of that, but that happened, right? Hey, here's an honest question. Should we count Liberia, I think that's what the one I'm thinking of, as part of the global war on terror, right? Where the president was, killed, sodomized. Liberia is what I'm thinking of. Hopefully, it starts with L.
You're thinking Libya. You're talking about Muammar Gaddafi.
Libya. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
Muammar
always
Gaddafi.
get that confused. Thank you so much.
It's okay.
Yeah, Libya. Thank you so much. Libya. Yeah, should Libya be considered part of the war on terror? Right?
Isn't it classically or no?
But is it? I mean, like again, like it wasn't for like it was like what the U.S. did was we intervened against like the government, right? The Liberian government against Muammar Gaddafi,
Libyan.
right? With sorry, my Libyan. Fuck me. I do
It's
apologize.
all good.
everyone.
It's all good. It happens.
Yeah. But we intervened against the Libyan government and with a bunch of groups that were there that were fighting against them. And so, like, is that part of the war on terror? Like, I don't know. Like, do you guys honest question? Do you guys think of it as part of that?
It could be classified that because like we've seen like a downfall and like we've seen an increase in activity in those regions. So it could be counted as that. Now, if you deploy troops to that area, like the Sinai Peninsula, they might see action there. So yes, it could be classified as a war on terror. But what happened in Libya and Egypt when we ousted Mubarak and then Morsi came in from the Muslim Brotherhood, then he was ousted eventually. That was all part of the Arab Spring, which that was one of the worst decisions that Obama ever made, ousting all those guys. Like, listen, don't get me wrong. Mubarak wasn't a good dude. Gaddafi wasn't a good dude, but that's not we ousted him for really stupid ass geopolitical reasons and whatnot, and we completely destabilized all those regions across. So it could be counted as a global war on terrorism because then, of course, you'll hear the favorite Republican buzzword, oh, Benghazi, their favorite buzzword. They still don't shut up about it, basically, even though it's been investigated from here to fucking Timbuktu, basically.
If only Gibbs was here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know, but like the thing is like it could be classified as part of global war on terrorism, but it's like it's not the main focus of the global war on terrorism. I know that was long-winded, but you had to go into context.
It was an honest question. I'm not sure how to characterize that. It's an intervention that we made in that area, right? Like if we're going by our friend Latoy's definition, then maybe it should be counted because it's within that geographical area. It's against. You would count it, okay?
Yeah.
Why would you count it?
Because it's within that geographical area, right? Because our justifications for it were, just like all of the other conflicts over there, were, with exception maybe for Afghanistan at least the beginning, were pretty kind of nebulous, not super like clear exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, with Libya, we declared no-fly zone and. There was a bombing campaign. Arguably, for whatever we care about it, Obama very well may have violated the War Powers Resolution on that one. So, because he was there longer than 6
Another reason to put him in jail. Great. Agreed.
And we bombed the shit out of that. And, in large part because, Gaddafi was a war criminal. Gaddafi was bad for this reason, supporter of, kind of regional terrorism. And then he since has, not a good guy, of course. Now we have a failed state, which has no stability and open slave market.
A source of terrorism, and a source of terrorism because that's of course there's no government to oppose them there.
Sure.
So anyway, that's my thought there.
But I also think that terrorism has a definition that you can use accurately or in specific
or broadly
contexts,
for whatever
right?
you want.
I guess you could, but I think that the common the meaning the word has taken on really has been just like American intervention in the Middle East and North Africa. When we talk about Haiti, where arguably a lot of the gangs there operate as terrorists, or the cartels who operate as terrorists, we call them cartels, or in Haiti we call them armed gangs. The vernacular the Americans use is just different when it comes to those areas, despite the fact that activity is very similar in a lot of regards. Really, when if somebody commits a mass shooting in Iraq, or if the person is from the Middle East who commits a mass shooting in a different country,
the motivations
we call that
are
terrorist.
completely different. No, that's stupid. The definition of terrorism is about political motivations. When we're talking about a fucking cartel, their motivation is to make money and sell drugs and sell guns and shit like that. To try to say that this is anywhere similar to what's happening with
no, it makes perfect
actual
sense for Haiti.
terrorist cells.
No,
where
no,
they're-
no. It makes sorry, no. There's everything's on a spectrum, right? And like these cartels have actually fought
Become
the
the
government,
government.
or tried to destabilize the
areas.
government, right? Like they've kidnapped government officials, like
Right.
high-level
No. Wait,
government
hold
officials.
on. I'm saying that it's not all that nebulous of a term where you're saying that like we just use these terms like all interchangeably depending on like that they could all mean the same thing, but we just if it's in the Middle East, then we just call them terrorist cells now instead of a cartel or something like that. And I'm saying that that's fucking ridiculous because obviously they have like religious and political motivations instead of just wanting to make money like a cartel.
I get where I get where Lactoid's coming from as far as because like the thing is that like a lot of these cartels are embedded within like the Mexican government or other parts of South American governments and whatnot. That part could make sense, but here's my only real contention with that is the thing is like if it was completely like a war on terrorism, then we would also
Yes,
be
but they're
fighting that
embedded in
war.
the governments for money. That's
Yeah,
why it's for money.
It's not just for money. They're also want to become the government in certain areas. There are certain areas in which the cartel governs, and they have like propaganda videos, and they quite literally like have political conflicts with each other.
Agree.
And then in Haiti, you have armed gangs, which are I could call them terrorist groups, that they're quite literally are like occupying and governing certain areas of Haiti. And like when there's a central government that tries to do anything, the terrorists fucking shoot them and blow them up and do all sorts of Yeah,
I mean,
I guess
we
it's not
saw similar
religious, but
behavior
it
in the Middle
definitely
East,
seems
though.
political. It definitely seems political.
Yeah.
Maybe not
Well,
religious.
but I gotta finish my point though, because like here's the thing, like the real difference here is that if we really were fighting a war on terror against like cartels or drug dealers or something like that, then we would be doing the exact same shit. Like we'd be treating every single drug dealer or cartel member that's here in the United States the exact same way, but we're not though. Because the thing is like when we see like these boats. Like we blow them up, but we know absolutely nothing about them. Some of them actually turned out to be fishing
that's
boats.
exactly what I was trying to jump in to say, right? But like, but to push back against what you're saying, and that like now we're expanding this language, right? Calling them, those boats, right, narco terrorists.
Yeah,
right? That's the language being used, and I want to use that to compliment what a friend Lactwood was talking about, like how the language has been used, like and like how we deploy these things, because it's actually very important. This is extremely important because, like, yes, who do we call a terrorist, right? And then what is the natural response once like this person or group, right, is noted as a terrorist? Because because the way it works in America is that once you're given that moniker, then we can have a national security response, right? Then it bypasses any. One second, I'd love to hear what you have to say. It bypasses like our court system, which is why we can go and assassinate Anwar al-Awlaki, right? In Afghanistan, we just like kill him and then kill his family members in separate strikes. And say like, well, even though he was an American citizen, he was a terrorist, right? And for national security, whatever, right? Another reason we should arrest Obama. That we can just take him out that way. And then so when we're talking about these narco terrorists, well, why are we doing this, right? Like, okay, if they had drugs in the boats, when most of these boats don't have drugs in the boat, we have no evidence of that. They present no evidence of that. Every so often, some of them have weed. But like in any case, if for these strikes, right? What's the point of calling them terrorists? Well, like that means we don't have to like detain the boats, right? The thing that we would normally do is detain these boats and then put them through some sort of justice system. But we don't have to do that anymore because now it's national security. And now what we do with national security, we drone strike. We've established that already, right? Once it becomes national security, that means extrajudicial murders is what we can do. These are the powers that are unleashed just by framing it as terrorism. So like now we have a narco terrorism. That's a brand new thing, right? Narco terrorism is a brand new thing. Not that like in Afghanistan, we didn't have drug dealers, because we did actually, right? Drug dealers part of because of the poppy fields.
Opium.
Like,
Opium was very, very widespread. Yeah. Yeah, opium was very widespread.
Terrorists. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like what language we use to deploy is actually. Go ahead. Sorry.
So okay, I got like 10 problems with this. So I agree that like the term terrorism is nebulous. It's very subjective, and you can like, what is political, what isn't. Like the United States going into Afghanistan, they can be considered terrorists now because they're going in there for, you know, political reasons or whatever. Like this, I agree to the idea that terrorism is a subjective term that can be used very loosely. The problem with like the bombing of the boats, though, is that this is like the whole issue that everybody had with it was that they were using the term terrorism differently than we had ever used it before. And so they were just weaponizing this term so that they felt justified in what they were doing. But that wasn't, when you say like, oh, well, there's precedence for this. Not really. Even with the drone bombing, like Obama had put into place all sorts of regulations to stop drone bombings like this before he left office. And Donald Trump got rid of it. And people all remember that Obama set the records for drone bombings. And they mention this all the time. Donald Trump beat that record in the first 2 years of his first term. He beat Obama's record for 8 fucking years in the first 2 years of his first term. But nobody hears about that. Like nobody hears about the fact that he did this. But while I want to agree with like the fact that this is a nebulous term to an extent, and that there is some subjectivity within the term of terrorism, it is not that subjective where like when we're talking about what is political, or you're trying to use some sort of like political motivation to instill fear through violence, that like what is political, while it is subjective, we're not going to call like somebody buying a fucking toy car at Toys R Us political. Like I think we can all draw some pretty reasonable lines here. And I think the people just selling drugs and wanting to get into positions of power so that they can more easily sell those drugs would not be considered political motivations. It would be considered like they want money. The motivations are money.
And listen,
Someone
I
counter
wasn't.
that?
I was. Go ahead, Lactoid. I'll go after you.
Sure. So to be clear, I agree that there needs to be a line set, and I'm not. I would be very hesitant to call like a drug dealer. I wouldn't call that person like a real political actor, or even like even a gang to some, like just even a relatively large gang to some extent. The reason why I use the Haitian gangs and specifically the Mexican cartels is because I think that these organizations, on my review, have surpassed whatever origins they've had of just being like a small, like or even large, like money making venture, and they've become these sort of pseudo government entities. When the cartel runs runs parts of areas of Mexico, it is more powerful than the government in multiple places. It runs local utilities. It relies on the goodwill of like the populace, and it has to react accordingly, right? The cartel is careful, like a little bit sometimes when it comes to like high profile killings, because they don't want to piss off the population that they rule over. They have become these sort of pseudo government entities, and they act as such, right? They're interested not just in money, but they often utilize the money that they get from selling drugs, just like the Taliban did, by the way, when they sold opium. The Taliban was one of the biggest cartels on the planet with how many drugs they sold. But the Mexican cartels do very similar things, right? They get the money coming in and they try to use it to establish political control over the areas in which they govern. I think that in Haiti, the gangs running that country, it's similar. It's a similar situation where the gangs have surpassed the power of the central government, and now there's no real elected government there to speak of. I think the prime minister is still there, but he has to negotiate with the gangs before he can do anything, and he really can't do much. I mean, it's a really tough situation there, and that place is governed by local gangs that have essentially taken over and will launch attacks against each other and the civilian population whenever they don't get their way. So I just, but when that happens, when we look at the mass killings that happen in Haiti or in Mexico, and we don't see that, we don't call that terrorism in the same way, because I do think that just the way the vernacular is used is we just tend to refer to it as like the Middle East, which is also sort of why we call it narco-terrorism. We have to put the modifier narco on there. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, I think, to Americans, right? Like these people coming up from Venezuela are terrorists. Hey, you can say that. I think a lot of people it's not going to resonate. They're not really going to fully understand. But if you put narco there.
You can't be a terrorist unless you're Middle Eastern, right?
Sort of. I mean, it's not truly the way the word's supposed to be used.
I know, but in the American
sense, the way it is, right? And so, but if you put narco there, it's like, well, narco drugs, that's from that area. Okay, that makes sense. yeah, I don't know. I think, and so we look at Libya and Iraq, which, you know, Saddam Hussein, for whatever you say about him, I don't think. I mean, maybe you could call him like a government terrorist, I suppose. But normally, terrorism is used to refer to non-government actors. But that was just a
Mhm.
toppling of a dictator, right? That's what. But that is really like what we talk about when we're putting this into the global war on terror, despite the fact that was overthrowing a dictator. So, but he's Middle Eastern, right? He's in that area.
Well, but that's why
That's my
with like
opinion on it.
Iran, we call them like a state funding of terrorism, right? It's because we wouldn't call like Iranian leaders terrorists in and of themselves, but we would say that they fund terrorism because they're funding
I think we
terrorist
do.
groups.
Yeah, I think the American state have to call them terrorists, but like I know what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, Tom. But like, yeah.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Like, one thing that we really need to kind of touch on, though, and we haven't really talked about it enough, is like we talked about like the whole extrajudicial process, is because like our country actually has a track record of not just like, you know, killing people because we suspect them being terrorists. We also have a tendency to like take them under false pretenses and like mistaken identity, basically, and put them in places like Guantanamo for years on end. Like, there's a few cases. I'm not going to read every single one of them because we'll be bored for days, but there are people that were mistakenly arrested and without any real due process whatsoever, and they were expedited to Guantanamo Bay, where some of them were waterboarded, some of them were tortured, which is against the Geneva Conventions, actually, to conduct these acts, essentially. But they were held for years on end without trial, without charge whatsoever.
They are being held 3 years, not were, right? Like there's still people in get
some still are. Some still are. It's not as a lot of them actually have.
Most of them are gone, but
most of them have been sent back to their countries of origin. But the thing is, it's like a total of like 780 people were held at Guantanamo, and nearly all were detained without criminal charges or trials. Now, 86% were captured by the Pakistan or the Afghan forces, and whatnot, and then they were sent over to our country. Now, not to our country, but to Guantanamo Bay, essentially. This is the problem that we're actually running into, because if that was to happen to any one of us, right, like we would be fucking losing our shit over it. Like I brought it up earlier today about the guy Andrew Tamarisi, the guy that managed to get himself stuck in Mexico because he had fucking guns in the back of his car, loaded guns, for mind you, and they kept him in prison. People were talking about sending the fucking special forces down there to get those guys because they were that outraged by it. The thing is, like, we did this to people and held them without trial, without charge for years. This is a problem right here. And like people say, oh, well, it happens, shit happens. Like, well, no, shit doesn't happen. This goes to show that there was a lack of oversight to make sure that we were actually getting the right bad guys. But all we did was like, we actually probably, some of these guys probably just went home and carried on with their lives, but some of these guys probably went back and was like, dude, these guys beat the shit out of me. We probably created more terrorists alone, just based on the loan. And honestly, and I'm not saying I justify it, I'm simply saying I get it. I get it. Like, I wouldn't want to fucking support this country. I sure as hell wouldn't. It's like, dude, these guys really treating me like shit. I mean, dude, they waterboarded me, and they pushed my shit.
Enhanced interrogation. That's all that.
So what you're saying is
It's
that
torture.
America deserved 9/11.
I didn't say that at all. That's not what I said at all.
That's what
Actually,
I think that's what you're saying.
that's not what I said at all, though. Of course.
But okay, so let's try to. I think there's still a lot more to be said on the global war on terror, and we can continue on with that thread.
Sure.
But like a part of the question that I posed to you guys was like, America's 250 years old. Is this country worth celebrating in its current state? Right? Looking at what America has done around the world, right? And the global war on terrorism, as far as like the world's concerned, right? The global war on terrorism is like one of the big things, right? Like that's what they've been experiencing, right? We've inflicted this upon the world. Is this something worth celebrating? This nation? Well, what are your feelings in general about it? And then I guess we can narrow it down.
Well, the way that it's framed in the prompt, in terms of like, that benevolent shining city on a hill, I don't think we should, as in my mind, you're falling very much short of that. But then again, that might be an unrealistic expectation for a country. But I don't view America that way. And I think, well, I don't view it as in, if that is the metric, then I don't think there is cause for celebration. But let's say, on average, do I have positive feelings, and are there good reasons to celebrate America as a Canadian? I think the answer is yes.
As an American, we don't care about Canadians' opinions. I'm sorry.
And you don't care about Lactoid.
Indeed.
I
Which
don't
is
make
fair.
the rules.
You sh-
I don't
Yeah.
make the rules.
You shouldn't care about Lactoid
I think we
Uh,
rock. I think we're a city. I think we're a shining city.
Okay.
based off of what metric?
Everything.
Everything.
Do I need
Okay.
to point to one specific?
So
thing?
the greatest
Taxes.
prison population. That's
Yeah.
Hold on.
We
Taxes
need-
are what
yeah,
makes us
You're
so
right.
great.
Yes, we
I
punish our
agree. I
prisoners.
think that,
True.
like-
Based.
true. Yeah. So you're in
Oh,
favor of the
no.
war on drugs. The war on drugs. That we should have a memorial for that.
That was
Hold
a
on.
bad-
Say it. Say it. Our taxes.
The best country.
Say
The best country can have a
How much we
fuck-ups.
spend on Social Security?
Yeah.
much we
Okay.
Spend on Medicare.
Stop. Okay. Fair enough.
Mm.
Let me reiterate.
You're number
Compared
one for
to
life
com-
expectancy.
compared
life expectancy.
compared to
and healthcare
compared-
costs.
Yeah. Compared to burn a candle that burns twice as hot or whatever.
Yeah,
half
you're really
as
nailing
long.
that expression.
So I think you can point to negative things, but overall, we're pretty fucking awesome. Historically, I think we've demonstrated an ability to hold firm to principles, and when we haven't, especially early on, to evolve and change and to fix those problems. I think yes. I'll say this. If any
Alex
other-
brought up
if-
with
if any
lessons
other
from the
nation-
Vietnam War,
Yeah.
those were learned.
If any other nation, I think, had the power that we have, they wouldn't be wielding it nearly as benevolently. I think that.
I mean, in I don't know 20, 30, 50
I-
years, China
so-
might be having that power. But we'll see.
Yeah,
and
yeah, and I
China
think
doesn't
if
rule
China had that,
nearly as fucking nicely.
yeah, and I think if China had that, it would suck. I think the
Let's
world
look
would
at.
be a
Let's
much
go
worse
over to
place.
Taiwan and ask them how they're doing.
Well, here's the thing. Like
I don't think
listen,
Taiwan is like
They're not bombed.
I-
They're
it's
not
not an
bombed.
abject
That's what they
poverty
are.
or like.
Well,
what-
Yeah, they're not
Hold
bombed.
on,
They're
hold
actually
on,
doing
hold
pretty
on,
well.
hold on. In terms of abject poverty, it's not even fucking close. Okay, China has way more people deeply impoverished. There's
No,
like,
he's talking about
That's not what I'm
Taiwan.
saying.
You said Taiwan.
You said Taiwan. You said ask. Let's pull Taiwan.
Yeah.
That's
Taiwan.
Taiwanese.
Yeah,
but I
because
would
they're
still
yeah, yes,
bet. I
yes,
would still bet
because
they're
they're
way
living-
more impoverished than we
because
are.
they're
Because
living
it's
in the shadow of potentially getting invaded by China at any minute.
Let's ask Cuba
But they,
how they
yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah.
Here-
Yeah, yeah.
We're
Look,
not trying to
Taiwan,
annex
your average
Cuba.
Taiwanese person lives much better than your average Chinese person. Their government is substantially better. And then you look at Cuba, and yeah, like what consistently
major
rated one
sanctions?
of the most unfree countries on
Yeah.
the planet.
Yeah, also with major sanctions against them.
Wait,
right?
hold
well,
on.
sure.
Everyone
Here's-
here
here's
is
the
against
thing.
the
and
sanctions.
like trying to assassinate
Sanctions,
the
not
the
everyone
leaders
gives
of
you-
the
I'm
It
against the
feels so
sanctions, but
fucking-
these sanctions
exactly.
didn't just drop out of the fucking sky, dude.
It feels really weird.
Well,
when you
yeah,
talk-
yeah, I know. America imposed them. Yeah, they didn't
Right.
jump out
So-
of the sky.
Why?
Yes.
though?
America did it
Because
A
of a
little bit.
totalitarian
the-
one-party state that took over that country.
Hold on, come on, Lactoid, please. Lactoid, please. I know you know better than this. Please
Oh,
don't
boy.
do this, right? They didn't do this because of freedom. Oh, yes, we wanted the Cuban people to be free. We had our own viceroy in Cuba, right? It was overthrown, right? They're no longer part of our
We
imperial
abandoned.
umbrella.
Yes, we
That's why we
abandoned
did
him.
it.
Hold
We didn't
on, hold
care
on.
about them.
No, hold
Come
on.
on.
We hold on. We abandoned Batista because he was doing a bunch of fuck shit, and quite literally, we abandoned him because of his poor human rights record. That's why the U.S. government stopped supporting him when the Cuban revolutionaries started, making serious ground. We pulled back that aid because of Batista's record, which I think is interesting.
Hold on.
that we are willing to sacrifice.
When
What?
the revolutionaries started making serious ground.
Yes, when Batista's fighting with the revolutionaries, we initially were supporting Batista, right? We pulled.
Yeah,
the-
that's
we pulled. Yes.
that's my understanding.
Yes, we pulled that aid
Well-
because Batista was going around to different villages and shooting them up.
But hold on, it was bad. There was bad before the revolution, though. During the actual oppression of Batista, we were fine with that, right? Like, so we could say, like, afterwards, right, when it seemed like,
No.
oh, maybe the winds are blowing differently. Yes, we pulled down support, but that doesn't mean that, like, we are now innocent of what we were doing previously.
I'm not
We
saying that
understand this, right?
I'm not
Okay,
saying
great.
I'm not
So we
saying we're innocent of what we're doing previously. What I'm saying is
So
that
then I'm saying
when
that-
the revolution started occurring and Batista started ramping this up significantly, it was like way more human rights abuses in that period of
we
time,
don't care.
and the pressure of
about-
that caused us to pull our aid
We
for
don't
Batista.
care. We do not.
Then why did we
care
pull our aid?
about liberal?
Then
we
why did
do
we pull
not
the
care
aid?
about liberal democracies. We've had this conversation before.
Why do we
You
pull the aid?
agree with this,
I
right? We
no,
don't
I don't
care
fully agree with
about
this.
any of that. That is of no consequence to us, right? It wasn't.
And why
simply
did we
because
pull
of-
the aid? Answer
Why
that
not? Yeah,
question.
why not keep Batista there? If we don't give a fuck at all, why not keep Batista and then fund the shit out of him? Because we pulled all
So-
our aid.
why not? I don't sorry. I'm going to answer this question right in the best way I can. I don't know exactly why we pulled our aid. I can't give you that question, but I can tell you why we didn't do it. We didn't do it because we gave a fuck about the
Incredible.
human rights records. Right? Like
Incredible. He doesn't know enough about history to make those claims, but he does know that it doesn't fit his narrative. That's what he does.
Hold on. Nice try. Yeah, hold on. Like, nice try, because we can see this throughout history, throughout the world, right?
Hold on.
And also in
This
case
is so-
we
I
don't
hate
care about liberal these places being liberal
You do this-
democracies. Let's stop pretending otherwise.
Okay,
right? Like,
here's something.
we
Here's
do-
something
we
that
do
really
kinda
bothers
care.
me. Hold
We
on, hold on.
kinda
Here's
care.
something that bothers
No,
me
we
about
don't.
both sides of the
Say it.
conversation. Okay, I think this is a term called reification, where basically you take this like abstract concept and you turn it into this like concrete idea. America is full of fucking a whole bunch of different people over history. And
So
like
we
when
can
you
hear you
say
typing,
we don't
Alex.
care about
Yeah.
liberal democracy,
Alex, you can hear
you
you typing. Just so you know. You can hear you typing.
Or
Alex.
someone's typing, but I don't know.
It was Alex. But yeah.
my
yeah.
hands are shown.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. It was
What
just
about your
Alex.
feet, Hunter?
Yeah.
Wah!
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Hunter, but please go
You're
ahead.
good. You're good. I feel really frustrated when we have these conversations about America and we paint with a broad brush over 250 years. We have a really complicated history, and there are a lot of fucking genocides that have happened on our watch. You know, we fucking, the Trail of Tears, Andrew Jackson, whatever. I can point to 1,000 different times as to which, as to times that I feel ashamed looking back on. But this idea that like we don't care about liberal democracy, therefore we wouldn't have done that because look at other times when we didn't care. But who did those, right? Like what was that America? Does Andrew Jackson get to speak for me for what America is? I don't think so. I don't think so. And
Yeah, the amazing president that Joe Biden was, that Donald Trump does not ruin Joe Biden's reputation. But these are
Based.
very different Americans.
So
Yeah.
but I do gotta step in though, because like the thing is like we're missing is just like there is no metric where we are kicking ass across the board. Like 53% of our population has a 6th grade reading level, and Lactoid, you already heard me say this, but I'm gonna say it again.
Compared to other nations, we're doing okay.
No, we're not doing okay. Okay, I'm sorry, but like,
I'm not saying great.
we're-
I'm not saying great, but
we're-
I did look at data recently where we compared against
Okay,
6 other developed
but you gotta let me
nations and we
finish
were
though.
third.
If there's one thing I don't like, guys, I let y'all speak, so just give me a second, okay? The thing is, like,
Yeah,
we
shut
spend
up,
more.
Hunter. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
We're
shut
all
up, but like the
interrupting
thing
each
is,
other
it's
too,
like
though.
okay, fine. But anyway, as I was saying, it's just like regarding healthcare, we spend more in healthcare than any other developed nation across the world. Yeah, we have the worst outcome, the highest infant mortality rate. We have the highest maternity mortality rate. We don't have paid guaranteed family leave. We don't have some form of like income to make sure like with the average income or like the minimum wage for people is like $7.50, which $6.85 was pretty stellar when I graduated high school. The thing is, like, what category are we exactly kicking ass across the board? Freedom? There's countries all across the developed world, especially first world nations, that have as just much freedom
Okay.
as we do.
We've
But
all
yet
seen
people are,
the newsroom pilot. Okay,
well,
I get
but
it.
Yeah,
but that's I'm talking about the newsroom pilot. But the thing is, like, but that's not what I'm talking about though. But the fact of the matter is just like, what metric are we so fucking star spangled awesome at?
I can
You're
go
literally
go through
doing
some.
the newsroom pilot.
So
It's
I know,
bad.
I'll give you some numbers. We're number 1 in disposable income per person. That's pretty fucking good. We got the most money. We're you say it's negative that we have the way our healthcare system works. I think there could be improvements, but I think it's generally good. That
It's not.
Wait, hold on.
I think it's
So,
I'm not expecting any agreement from the entire
but-
panel on this, to be clear, but I think it's generally good that the use of services is paid for disproportionately by the people who use it. I think that is good.
Do you get the best? Do you have the highest life expectancy? of all?
Before
If
we
you
go,
no, because we are fat, because we have so much fucking money and access to food. It's a fucking
Yeah.
glorious fucking
And
McDonald's. over
you
here.
have no choice but to
Freedom,
buy that food
baby.
and shovel it in your mouth,
Yeah.
right? Lactose.
So sad. I'm gonna
Wait,
fucking
wait,
die
oh,
3 years
sorry.
earlier.
Some of the other things
I
that
get
we're like,
fucking
we're not really
unfiltered
addressing.
Lucky Strikes.
Well, like-
What do you guys
Can
probably
I-
get for like
I'd
$35
like to give
a
my
pack?
answers. I'd like to give my answers for what America is really good at.
I
So
want
I'm gonna give some.
I wanna-
Hold on,
I
I want to
wanna-
give some clarifications. I'm gonna go first. Sorry. Some clarifications. First off, the mortality rate, the maternal mortality rate is flipped. You're looking at it backwards. We're actually very, very low in terms of mortality rate, but you want your mortality rate to be low, so we're actually high in it. the healthcare, we have a tremendous amount of innovations now. I want to reform healthcare too. I'm in favor of single payer. I'm in favor
Number
of
one in
public
innovating.
option. Yes, in terms of innovations, we are fantastic.
Number
But
one.
the best thing that we're number one in America about is that we're America, okay? And that's what being American
What
is
an
No,
argument.
about.
First
I-
Amendment-
I fucking- I
First
expect
Amendment-
better from you.
Second
Hunter.
Amendment, I can go. I have an AK-47. Do you guys have an AK? No, you can't fucking get one.
Whoa! I gave you
cares?
this
The
challenge.
AK-47 is
wait.
fucked.
I
It's not
gave
a
you.
good
I
rifle.
gave you. I
We
gave
are
you
the
this
most-
challenge.
It's the most
Lactoid.
mass-produced rifle
I-
for a reason because it's
I
fucking
gave
cheaply
you
made.
the challenge years ago. Can you open a Kinder Surprise on stream
Okay,
right now?
fuck. All
Can you
right.
do it tomorrow?
This is your one. This is a good point. This is your one good point.
No.
Yeah,
I'll keep going. I will keep going.
have,
I will keep going.
We
I'll
have
keep going.
the most
Can you?
amount.
I will keep going.
Lawn
I will
darts.
keep going.
Lawn darts.
Can you?
Fuck.
Can you in every single state smoke cannabis?
No.
Well,
But our
Okay,
freedom
so-
of
but you
speech
have
is
all the
unparalleled.
freedom, right?
Our freedom of
Okay.
speech is unparalleled. We
I
have the
agree.
number-
I agree. I agree on paper. How that actually translates,
on
I don't know
paper.
that
not
meaningfully.
even close. Not even
Practice.
close.
I said on
In
paper, but
practice.
I don't.
I want to. Okay,
I don't
okay,
know
okay, hold on. I'm sorry. I don't want to do this fight.
The Kinder egg fucks me up. every
Freedom
I
of
don't want to do.
speech.
I don't want to do
speech
the fight right now. I don't want to do this fight right now.
And
okay?
the lawn
All right?
darts. Fuck.
I want to go back to what we were saying previously. So I'm gonna give some leeway to our friend Hunter here.
Surprise.
Oh, sorry. So aren't you studying, or why? You don't have to listen to this part, Hunter. Right? You go back to studying. I'll say my piece, but you don't have to listen to this part.
I'm probably
I got to
fall
respond
asleep
after
better,
this. I
but-
got to respond to something Alex said. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So what I was going to say is that I don't have a firm grasp on the Cuban Revolution history, right? It hasn't been a particular area of focus of mine, right? So I'll say that, and I will agree with you. Your reification narrative, right? When you're basically you're saying yes, you can establish a pattern, right? And that pattern might be true, but for any particular incident, unless you have insight into an incident, you can't just say it necessarily matches that pattern. That's fair, right? I still think I'm pretty damn sure it does match my pattern, but I actually don't have enough information to confidently say that. So I'm going to give that to you, right?
That's fair.
However, that doesn't mean there isn't any through lines within our history, and which is what the thing I'm going to push back against you. You're saying well, we do have a long history. Well, not extremely long compared to other countries, but still, right? A relatively long history. And within that history, there are many actors, right? There are many different political situations, political moments, and incentives, right? That may or may not even translate to our political stances today. And so we have to keep that in mind when looking back in history. I think that's a very important point, and I'm gonna give you that as well. However, a clear through line is imperialism. Imperialism is an absolute through line throughout American history, right? Starting with the taking of the colonies through the push west, right? This is all imperialist acts. And when America established, then our relations with Mexico, right? Pushing down into their imperialist acts. The idea of the Western Hemisphere being the American hemisphere, right? And our Canadian friends being forced to be a part of that, and then everyone south of the border, right? Imperialist act. Our adventures within Asia, right? Taking what we did to the Philippines, imperialist act. And then Vietnam and all that. All this is imperialism. Up to the Middle East, right? Imperialism.
Canada's still colonized.
Sorry?
Canada's still colonized.
The way it should be, yeah. Yes, imperialism. Imperialism can be good sometimes, right? Imperialism.
Spoken
all
like
the
a
way
true
through.
leftist.
Yeah.
True.
But yeah,
As long as it's my imperialism, then it's okay.
Exactly.
as long as it's mine, yeah. So, but that's imperialism is the through line of America, and that's when I'm looking back through our history. That's what I'm looking for, right? I would also say imperialism, oftentimes, almost always, matches white supremacy. But I don't know. That might be too much of an advanced subject for this crowd here. But
yeah, it's confusing sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's too complex, and we have trouble with that. So any which
We
way,
need to have Rose Davis for that conversation.
yeah. but yeah, that's absolutely something that you can point to. You can point to view Americans' actions. Yeah, it's imperialism. I'll leave it there. I don't know if people can jump in.
I think
Well, I
that's
think
wait, hold on.
I
that
do
was in
agree with
response
like
to
what.
me.
Well,
Can I go real
I
quick?
haven't
I'm
even.
gonna go real quick.
Yeah, go.
It was a response. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go real quick though. I'm just gonna say
You're good.
that's a valid lens to look through. I'm not gonna deny the vast amount of imperialism and white supremacy that has been at the core of the American frontier. But I do think that sometimes we glue our glasses to our face, and there are other glasses that we can view America through that are maybe equally as valid. I'm gonna say that. Yeah. But yeah, that's about it.
But they could all. But I can give you that. I can give you that. But I can also say there can be multiple things, right? There can be multiple prisms, right? And they can all be valid. So like you can. I'm sure the Hunter, you could maybe give me something else, another lens to look at, and I could agree. Oh yeah, this like is a good way of like processing most of American history, right? In our actions, especially talking about our foreign policy, you might be able to generate that. That doesn't mean the imperialism lens is incorrect, right? It could be multiple things, multiple incentives being used. Yeah, there.
Yeah,
right?
but in some cases, whatever. I don't have anything off the top of my head. It's explicitly not imperialist. In some cases, we're anti-imperialist. In some cases, we're, and like in order to look through it just feels so weird.
When are we
one
anti-imperialist? When can you give me
I
an
don't
example?
know. Like,
I take your time. You can like put some.
No, like
I'm not trying to like
whatever.
Ukraine.
Biden pulling us from Afghanistan. Like, was that imperialist or
Russia,
pulling
anti-imperialist?
America out of an imperialist action
Yes.
is anti-imperialism.
Was Biden?
No, that's not anti-imperialism, right? That's
Russia,
not
Ukraine.
that was
that's
more like
Russia,
ending
Ukraine.
imperialist action.
We're funding
That doesn't
You
mean
Russia.
lost
it's
the imperialism,
funding
as in
Ukraine.
that was a lack of successful imperialism.
Yeah, it was like, what
No,
the fuck?
Tom's right.
Like we failed miserably.
We're
I'm sorry,
funding
Tom.
Ukraine.
It's U.S.
We're
imperialism.
funding Ukraine. That is the
yeah, no.
anti-imperial action.
Oh, wait,
Oh,
wait,
no.
hold on.
That's the pro you.
can't agree with this. Yeah,
You no longer agree with
you
Tom,
can't
right,
agree with
Lactoid?
this.
Or not? You still?
No, I
agree
thought he
with
was
Tom?
saying that like us funding them was the pro-American like imperialist action, which is
Yeah. That would be
No.
the
We're
truth,
adding
right?
to our
Tom,
little
stupid.
EU
You guys-
puppet.
Yeah,
That's
you
what
guys
Tom,
are
Tom,
fucking
these
retarded.
guys are idiots. You kind of just have to ignore
Yeah,
them sometimes.
that's absolutely fucking retarded. Okay,
No,
but
no,
I was
no.
gonna say the I think that like when I think of what America stands for and like what it is that why I would say that we're good or I would celebrate us is because of liberalism. I think that we have been like when it comes to being a shining beacon, I would say that liberalism is the thing that we've kind of shown works, that democracy is something that is good, that it's capable, it's not only
Can you
a
define liberalism for
thing
me?
that
I don't mean I'm not trying to like gotcha. I'm just trying to make sure I'm on the same page with what you're describing.
yeah, like enlightenment values, like
John Locke. Magna
democracy,
Carta.
free speech.
I mean, like
Okay.
if you like,
Yeah.
I just
really,
want you to understand. That's okay.
it's kind of famous. It's kind of famous. Like a lot of people forget this, but democracy used to be a dirty word. Plato originally said this is the worst form of government because anyone can be in charge. That's obviously going to lead to ruin. And it took 2,000 years, not 2,000 years, it took 1,500 years for us to go, actually, wait, hold on. Maybe this can actually function. And it just takes a shit ton of work. And it takes a lot of dedication to make sure that everyone is involved in the process. What? No. It requires a lot of upkeep.
Yeah, no, but I don't. The way that you frame that, Plato described democracy. I don't know that fully true, but I take your point. Like,
No, that's pretty true. He said, he
he
put
characterized it as like the
tyranny.
worst.
He put tyranny over democracy.
When you say over democracy, what do you mean by over?
He ranked them all, and he said the best one is with like intellectuals in charge. I forget what the name of it is.
Philosopher Kings.
It's
Yeah.
technocracy.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So that I would say that like liberalism is the thing that makes the United States great, and that has been like the thing that we've been able to export to other countries. And sometimes it's through imperialism. Sometimes it's through what they call neo-imperialism, where we use like
Soft power.
all of the money that we have in order to kind of influence other countries into heading in our direction, and then we work with them because we were able to become a superpower. We use our superpower position to influence other countries into better conditions for their people. And I think that this is like in that scenario, I think that we have overall been a net good for the world.
Based as fuck.
Well,
We
like,
know
what
you
were gonna ask
disagree,
me?
Prime. It's okay.
I agree with it. Oh yeah,
Black
I got a message for you. Quote: This is from Jeb Tan. AK-47 not being a good rifle is such a fake gun guy take. It's like saying the Toyota Corolla is a bad car.
Isn't Toyota a Japanese
That's
brand?
what we're going to go back to.
I can think of a few rifles that are better than AK-47. It's the most mass-produced rifle in the world
Because
for
of
a
the
reason.
demand, right?
Because it works.
Because of demand.
No.
Have you ever heard of Jevons
The
paradox?
Toyota Corolla is
It's reliable.
It's nothing.
It's
Yeah,
just
nobody-
reliable. Yeah, that's why.
It's,
My
it-
understanding.
it's the Toyota Corolla. I think that's a great comparison.
Yeah.
It is,
it's
but
the, it's the Nokia of guns.
Yeah, but nobody
I
has
don't-
Nokias anymore, though. So
Yeah.
nobody has a
Much as
Nokia
well.
anymore. So
AK-47s
But,
are
like,
also kind of falling off.
well, here's the thing. Like, what it comes down to, like, listen, I'm very, very critical of my country. That's just because I want it to get better. Now, if you want to address the issue of, like, the poverty level in this country, yes, I'm willing to address that. But the thing is, though, is that we're never going to do that because we can't get out of our own fucking way. I mean, for crying out loud. Like, I could also say, like, one thing that makes our country great is because I don't consider us a melting pot, because a melting pot, you really can't recognize the diversity. But the thing is, I consider us like a salad bowl, right? Because we recognize and appreciate that we are a very
Hell yeah.
different. We're just a different conglomeration of people of different religions, races, different cultures and customs and whatnot. But the thing is, though, is that there are people in this country that are scared of every fucking thing. I mean, why else do you think there's so many people who's like, oh my God, Sharia law? 1.3% of the population is Muslim, and everyone's freaking out about a fucking takeover. I mean, the thing is, this country, like, I love my country, but we are filled with idiots that are scared of their own fucking shadow, for crying out loud. These guys, like, the second you hear somebody speaking Spanish, they start flipping the fuck out. I was like, hey, speak English in this country. How dare you? Like,
Low-key.
it's crazy.
I agree, and I also vehemently disagree. That's so fucking true about so many people. But like, all in all, compared to other countries, what I've seen, the very little that I've seen, we're pretty damn tolerant. Like, I constantly see people speaking Spanish, and I have never seen anyone
And
shout
you've
out.
never punched one of them. Yeah,
It's true. I've never seen anyone go
He's
aggressive.
been
on
restrained
someone.
each
The worst
time.
that I've seen
he's
is
held back.
Sometimes my mom will make a little bit of like a, ugh. I'm like, shut up, and that's
That's
about
great.
the worst.
And
it
then
gets.
you
And
hit her.
I agree that like we're obnoxious, and I agree that there's terrible, awful racists. I'm not saying that because I haven't seen them, they don't exist. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I know that they do, and I see them online every day. But like
So-
sometimes
Every
there's a
day.
little bit.
So
Yeah.
both
Yeah,
these
well-
things can exist at once, right? So like, one, I think I actually agree with you in terms of our ability to take people in and integrate them, right? Like, I'm not sure if there's a better country, right? There might be, I don't know, but but as far as I can tell, there's no better country than that, right? But at the same time, we terrorize those people, right? That mechanism, we call that ICE today, right? Like, we have through state power have been going after those exact same those communities that like speak Spanish, right? Well, we created a hotline, right, where you can report suspected
There goes
undocumented
the we
immigrants.
again.
And
It's like
we
Trump
being
does
America,
one
hold on,
fucking
we being
thing.
America, hold on, we being America. You understand how I'm using we? You get
The
that.
royal
So-
we.
No, I get
Yes,
it, but
yes.
no. I get
I
it.
mean,
but I'm
I think
saying-
every country has immigration control, to be fair.
But
sorry,
I think of when I think of Trump, I think of him as being anti-America. Like,
Yes!
you're a leftist, so
Yes!
you
No,
think of him
I-
as being
and I
the
don't.
culmination of America.
Yes.
I think of him as being antithetical to everything that is
Yes,
America.
exactly.
I disagree. Now I'm farther away from Trump than
'cause you're Haitian.
pretty much anybody here, right? But
That's
in
not
terms
how
of-
that works.
I'm Canadian.
You're so
Yeah.
it's so obnoxious. I'm more left,
Fine.
actually. I support Stalin, so I'm actually more left than you. I hate Trump.
You
even
guys,
more.
you
Okay.
guys
Oh my
actually
God.
think that like
Oh my
hating
God.
Trump
Oh my
is
God.
like the best
Oh my
thing about
God.
America.
Oh my God! No,
It's a pretty good
It is
damn
the
part
most
of
American.
America.
No, hold
It is-
on.
It's like
I
it's
think
like-
no,
Makes me
hold
feel
on.
pretty fucking
Apple
good.
pie.
I think
Oh my fucking God.
Trump is quintessentially American. That's the thing. That's unfortunately. This is
Well, I
he's
think he embodies the
quintessentially
worst parts
American, right?
of American.
Yeah,
Yes,
like-
exactly. Right.
that's fine. No, but that's where. Come on, you.
America
Yeah, no,
continues to like progress though. We evolve and we have realized our values and our constitution more and more over time. We have realized those liberal values over time. Of course, early on we had slaves and we were doing horrible things to the indigenous people, but we have realized those values more and more. And Donald Trump is the exact opposite of what it is with the genocide. Donald Trump is going backwards and he is the opposite of that evolution. He is pulling us. He is
Joe Biden was.
You're right. We got to go back to our. We got to go back to our roots.
The most progressive president we've ever had.
Who funded the genocide?
Yeah, no. We got to go back to our roots. We got to go away from Trump. We got to go back to our roots of the base level American shit like gun restrictions and more abortions. And putting
Reagan, who are we
putting activists on the Supreme Court. Hell yeah, that's
Reagan. I can't
Trump,
know who you're
evil Trump getting away from us.
Essentially American. And to pretend otherwise. And I
don't want to fucking hear about an activist on the Supreme Court.
I would say that
under Thomas.
And at the same time, I would say that Joe Biden
but he's better.
is quintessentially American, right? Like I think we can. There's a case to be made that. Well, okay, I'm not going to make this case because it's going to confuse the conversation, and you guys are going to go off in a tangent. So I'm going to back off on that. But I'll just get these two men, right? These two men, quintessentially American. They can be
two men, guy A and guy B,
representing different parts, but parts that aren't that different. When it comes to imperialism, actually they're quite the same. Actually, they're very, very similar when it comes to imperialism. That part of America, right? Once again, is a very useful through line. Because
it comports with your
no, because it actually is the case. Because he actually engaged in imperialism. That's why. Because he actually did. I can actually point to the moment engaging in imperialism.
Nobody's denying that, though.
Right?
Nobody's denying that. What we're saying.
I'm not.
No, he's not. No, he's not. We're talking about on net though. Earlier when we're talking about narrativizing these things, we're talking about like narrativizing is putting like a very simple lens on what it is that you're looking at instead of looking at big picture like on net value. And if we just look at like what's happening with Israel and Palestine, yes, that's horrible. But then there's like a billion other things that are good. And Donald Trump getting rid of like U.S. aid, which was considered what they call like neo-imperialism,
which
but
is
it's
just another
like
word for based.
But it was fucking based. It was like kind of bringing everybody else into the fold and really helping out other countries. And
he also provided
Donald Trump getting rid of that is not.
I'm not going to know true Scotsman Donald Trump though, right? Like, he's not really American.
Why not?
No. Yeah, hold on. Because all the bad things. Those are his stuff, right? That's just Donald Trump. Donald Trump suffered all these corners. Those are his the bad, these bad parts, right? But the good parts, those things are really American.
You know what? Wait, hold on. I'll concede a little bit,
and I want to push back against my friend Lacto a little bit, right? Like because I have the opposite of Trump. Well, not the opposite, but like I don't have Trump derangement syndrome here, right? This is an example of me showing that I am. In terms of like how he fits within America, I embrace Trump, right? I don't reject him to saying he's some sort of aberration.
Clipped.
Right? Clipped. Please do that because I don't say that he's some sort of aberration that gets ignored, right? And then
he's not a tumor to be cut out. He's part of the American body.
Of sainted
the tumors are still part of the body.
Sure,
yes,
but you understand the analogy.
They're made up of our fucking DNA. Hold on. I think a tumor is a great example.
Strictly speaking, no.
No? I don't know how tumors work.
You want to go down this road?
No. I guess not. Right.
Yeah, Hunter, you're going to get schooled on the DNA of tumors.
Yeah, I guess if it counts as a mutation, then I guess I won't.
Yeah, so Prime, I don't think you have TDS. I don't.
I have TDS.
Yes, you do.
I love it.
I think Tom has massive TDS.
I literally have shirts on my store that say TDS and proud.
I think that clip of James Carville. It's so fucking good.
I actually think I don't know. I think all of you probably have TDS to some extent, except I don't think Prime does. I don't. I think Prime, his worldview.
I think you have TDS. But in this case, you're just a Trump.
No, please, I want to hear what he has to say.
I think for Prime, Trump fits like within the structure that you've constructed, and he fits like into an evil slot for you. But it's like it fits.
Most of the presidents do.
Most of the presidents do. I understand, right? Yeah. So I think in some way, if I was going to accuse you of anything, it would almost be like a UDS, or like an ADS is what I accuse you of, an America derangement syndrome. It's like if it's American, like a little bit. That's what I. But I don't.
Honestly,
I would not accuse you of TDS though.
I judge people who don't have TDS though. That's the
definitely-
distinction.
No,
This
okay.
is a
Let me
negative
explain what TDS is first. Like,
Yeah.
and this is why it frustrates me so much. I don't care that you guys don't like Trump. It's just like it seems like hating him has become like a tribal brand that's like comparable to MAGA. And it's I don't know. It seems to go against the whole
not
anti-MAGA thing.
comparable to MAGA. No,
It is, it is.
Honestly,
Honestly,
here's
like,
the thing.
We're
I'll
looking
say
at
good
it. The
things
problem
about
is
Trump.
that
Consider
even if he
MAGA.
does something good, you don't want to give him credit for it because holistically, he is doing that good thing normally in furtherance of some like 10 other bad things. And so, yes, like it's normally not even beneficial to even acknowledge when, like with the Iran war, when people are like, yeah, but isn't he right about the fact that they have, they are enriching uranium? Yeah, sure. He's the one who gave him fucking permission to do that by
Yeah,
pulling out
he
of the
dissampled the
JCPOA. So I don't
exactly.
like, even
Again,
when I can give him credit for something, I'm not going to because it's in
No,
furtherance of 10 other bullshit things.
Here, and by the way, I'm not even. Again, you can disagree with anything or everything that Donald Trump
No.
has done. That's not what I'm
'Cause
saying.
We live in the fucking
What I'm
USA,
saying,
baby.
of course,
Will,
yes,
too.
best country in the world.
Hell yeah.
I never disagreed with that. So, but my point here is that, like, as far as presidents go, I could point to 100 terrible things that Biden has done. I could point to really bad things that Biden has done. I could point
I
to
challenge you on that.
really bad things that George W. Bush has done. And if we compare like Trump to Bush, I think it's clear that Bush is worse than Donald Trump is. But it seems like the dislike of Trump has become a brand, and I mean that literally. Like you can sell it, right? If you throw in jabs on Trump here and there, like that sparks some dopamine release in people's brain, right?
Okay. Look,
If you like this has become a quintessential part of people's identity of just like, yes, I am this person. I like cats. I like eating bananas, and I hate Trump.
Okay,
And
I
you
don't-
take that away from them, I think
don't-
that you'd probably cause an identity crisis for
Look,
a lot of
I
these
don't
fucking people.
necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but it really needs to be contextualized here. I'm going to say two things. Firstly, I actually agree with you. I think Bush was way more damaging than Trump, just on the virtue of the Iraq War. That shit was
And
fucking
Afghanistan and the
crazy.
prison program.
Yeah, I'm saying one thing is probably
Iran
enough
war's
to
not over
surpass Trump's legacy. The reason I don't talk about Trump, the reason why no one would ever suspect me of hating Bush more than Trump, even though that's true, I talk about Trump way more because he's the fucking president of the United States right now. It kind of makes sense that he's part of the conversation. And hold
That's
on one
fine.
sec. Just one sec. He has also dominated the political subculture for 12 fucking years. Like ever since when did he start running? 2015. So it's been 11 years. It like every single fucking news article is about him. Every single thing that he does because he's the head of the Republican Party.
I didn't
He's-
recall that during the Biden years.
Yes, because
So-
Biden was never even really
Are
the
you
head of the
crazy?
Democratic Party.
Hold on. He was mentioned, but if you're saying that he was like the political identity, I heard way more about Biden when he was the president. About his,
I
the,
disagree.
The,
I
the, the
remember-
vaccine stuff, his mandates that he tried to push through.
Okay,
Well,
maybe
here's the thing.
The student
maybe-
loan
hold on.
forgiveness that he tried to
Hold
push
on.
through. He was shot
Even
down a
when
couple
Biden
times.
was president,
The
Trump would
immigration.
start- hold on, Trump would just start tweeting shit like, "Hey, we got to be against this immigration bill," and all of the Republicans would just go, "Yes, yes, Daddy." He's not even fucking president. He's just some dude
There-
in Mar-a-Lago, and everyone is signing along, and we're crazy for pointing out how
So
fucking
here's the
disgusting
thing,
this
like,
humor is.
There's
I will definitely say without a doubt that George Bush was a terrible president without a doubt. But Donald Trump is the fucking worst without a doubt. He's the first
See.
president in the nation's history to have
I
never
would take
ever
that's a
conceded in an
fine
actual
take.
election. No. What? No, he's the worst. He's the worst
Sure.
president.
I'm
Here's
not
why.
saying-
In January 6th,
Yes,
absolutely.
genuinely, that's
He
a
is the
fair
only president in
conversation.
the history of the country that has never actually conceded an election that he actually lost fair and square. As a matter of fact, he's the only president we've ever actually seen that is actually truly weaponizing his Justice Department. He's actually told the FCC to cancel certain shows like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert. He's the only president we've ever actually seen. And the thing is like he
And he's
actually
made the
is
most
wep-
money out of any
Yeah,
president.
made the
in
most
office,
money
right?
what-
By
he promised
exponentially.
Hold on,
He-
he promised
Oh,
he
yeah.
promised no more new
Black
wars
Toy.
and whatnot. He
Is
talked
it
about
just-
like
Let's wait. Let's hold his feet to the fire on these. Let's not
Sure.
just gish gallop him. Do you fucking condemn how disgusting it is that a president didn't concede an election, that he sowed distrust into the American populace, and now every single election is full of malice and distrust?
Well, hold on. Whoa.
Okay, what is it?
That last tack on.
Fine, fine.
Sure.
Strike through that last sentence.
I'll give my opinion. When Hillary Clinton lost, and there was a
here
sizable
we go.
portion of the Democrats who were saying that the election was rigged, I thought this was bullshit.
Hold on.
This was not comparable to January 6th, to be fair.
Great.
Okay.
Okay,
thought it was
I agree.
bullshit,
It was bullshit.
But this culture of like denying an election, this was actually relatively prevalent amongst the Democrats prior to Trump pulling it.
Ooh, wait.
When
Hillary
Trump
was
conceded,
doing
Al
that?
Gore conceded, Kamala Harris conceded. They all conceded.
Hold up.
Was it
I
just
know.
people
Yeah.
online?
And then Hillary later on, said that it was rigged. And then when you had Trump, Hillary, just somebody online, right? The actual candidate saying later that it was rigged, just somebody online, of course. And then when you have, and the actual polling showing that like a significant chunk of Democrats thought this, of course. But when Trump pulled it, Democrats actually, the fact that Trump did January 6th actually sort of fixed this problem among Democrats. In 2024, like a record low number of Democrats thought that the election was rigged because of the association of rigging allegations with Donald Trump, which I think is kind of funny. Do I think that January 6th was bad? For sure.
I agree with that to an extent, but
I
it's
said it
different
at
when
the
you didn't
time.
have a peaceful transition of power.
Yeah,
right?
No, wait,
I
hold on.
said it at the time that I thought January 6th was bad. But, and I've said this multiple times since then, I think that packing the court is fucking crazy. And
Hold
this
on,
is
hold on.
amongst
Don't let him
the
fucking
mainstream.
weasel away from
I'm
this.
not weaseling. I answered it
Yes, you
correctly.
are,
I answered it
because you
directly.
have repeatedly downplayed Donald Trump's role in January 6th. You are
In what way?
frustrated with the actors. Hold on. We had an entire debate about whether or not Donald Trump was responsible in January 6th. It was me v. you, and you were like, was he really? Really?
Hold on. If we're talking about the
the
riots, then yeah. Hold on. If we're talking about the riots, then absolutely. If we're talking
What else
about
is January 6th?
yeah, hold on a second. So I condemn the part where he said that it was rigged without sufficient evidence, and that he pulling that shit for sure. But do I hold him
Fake
responsible?
slate of electors
now,
attempting a coup.
Right, the fake
non-peaceful
You don't think
fake
you don't
slate of
think he pointed
electors.
his fucking his
That was
supporters over
yes.
to the White House?
I do not believe that the fake slate of electors that was theorized by his attorney. I'm blanking on the name right now.
Cohen, Michael Cohen.
No, the other one.
No, it was Southern.
No. Hold on.
It was something.
Which person are we talking about?
The guy who came up with the fake slate of
He's trying to
electors.
find his little-
John Eastman. John Eastman.
Eastman.
Eastman, that's what it
Yeah.
was. I knew it was like Southern or Eastman. Or
So,
something.
in terms of the legality of things, I think that if a well-respected lawyer, as Eastman was, comes to you and presents a legal pathway to maintaining power, from the legality aspect, I don't fully hold Trump responsible for that. In the same way that I wouldn't fully hold responsible any client if they're given this sort of advice by a credible licensed attorney, which John Eastman was. I do condemn specifically the part where, whether it be legal or illegal, I don't like the idea of somebody delaying transfer of power without sufficient evidence of election fraud. I know Trump believed that there was election fraud. He thought he had it. I just don't think that he did. So I condemn his judgment on that front. In terms of his responsibility when it comes to the actual January 6th riot that happened at the Capitol, no, I don't think that he said anything in particular that should hold him responsible for the violence that happened that day.
Whoa, come on, dude.
So
the fact that they had the rally right by the Capitol, right where he's saying,
Sure.
hey, they're all in there right now betraying your
Mhm.
president. He had been tweeting about this for an entire week. So if you
Yes.
just want to make it about the speech he gave that day, sure, him saying fight like hell was not enough to get everybody to run inside the fucking Capitol on that day. But all of the tweets for the
All of
2 weeks leading up to that point,
Yes.
it is obvious that if somebody told me that the election was stolen and I believe them, I would have been inside the fucking
You,
Capitol.
you
I
are
would have
you
been
are
running
allowed
inside
in this
there, too.
country to give an opinion as to what you think happened without it being incitement. That is the rule. I'm allowed to say
That's
I
not
think this was
true.
stolen from me,
That's
and
not
by
true.
me coming out and yelling about that, yes, it is true. I can come out and I can say
Not
you
if
can
and
say
I,
that.
and I, and I
no,
can
it's
say
not.
this is complete and utter horseshit. This was stolen from me. That does not mean that I am inciting violence.
And if that's all that happened on
That's not
J6,
true.
we would not be having this conversation. Actually,
That
If
was the
that's all
debate that I had
happened
with
on J6
Hunter,
Well,
No, it
if that's
wasn't. There was
if
there was. Hold on.
and I addressed
do
both parts
actually
of it
have
to be
go.
clear.
Yeah, true. You didn't weasel away. Thank you for not weaseling away.
I did it.
but
You weasel away out of the court packing shit
hold
that
on.
your side's trying to do, sir.
I have to weasel away
Uh-huh.
because I have a test to study for.
Right
But
when I brought up court
I'm
packing.
gonna throw a little grenade.
Wow.
And walk out of the room. So I apologize, but hopefully you guys can scream a lactoid. But yeah, I gotta go. So
But thank you for being
care,
here,
Hunter.
Be
Hunter.
well.
It's
Good
luck
I know
on the
you,
test.
you could have used
See ya,
this time
Hunter.
differently.
Have fun.
But I appreciate you using it with
yeah,
us.
unlike
And
the
we-
fucking everyone else who bailed.
Yeah,
Alright.
fuck those guys. But you still
Yeah.
thank you so much, Hunter.
All right,
Seriously,
see ya. Bye.
Take
Later,
care.
Bye.
Well, but here's one thing I would actually like to know. Like, and this is my biggest problem with MAGA. I consider MAGA a mental disorder because I think half of these people are just so devoted and devoted to Trump that they are afraid of losing the cash cow because they know if they support Donald Trump, he's going to basically like love them. But Lacto, I'd like to know something. Whenever MAGA people are confronted about the 2020 election, they never answer whether he lost or he did or did not lose. Why is it you don't think that they don't admit that he lost?
Because I don't think Trump thinks that he lost, and Trump tends to exclude people from his political circle if they challenge him on that.
Yes, because they're afraid. Yes.
That's why it's a cult. That's why it's a cult. This is why I call it a mental disorder, because people are willing to throw away their sensibilities and willing to throw away their integrity for one guy. That's a problem with me. Like, this is why I have such, and like, listen, if we were doing the same thing with Joe Biden or Barack Obama, I'd have a problem with it just as much. Because honestly, like, patriotism means to stand behind the country. It doesn't mean to stand behind one political.
I have
president or any
an issue
political
with Hillary
position.
Clinton.
Sure. So do I. I have lots of issues with her. I got lots of issues
Yeah,
with Biden.
look,
Like, I was very critical of
fair-
Biden.
With her
Fair-
denying the election. I'm saying.
Fair enough. I believe that I have been very consistent here. I have answered the questions point blank and directly as to my thoughts on the intricacies of January 6th. What I think that it is, I don't believe that it was a insurrection. I do believe that it was a riot, and I don't think that Donald Trump incited the riot by any kind of legal or moral standard. I do think that obviously it is the case that the rioters were motivated by the beliefs that Donald Trump was sharing. But you know, I don't think it's a site. I don't think it's
actually thought that though.
For sure he thought it.
That he's
Of
absolutely
course he
fucking
thought it.
retarded.
Of
No,
course,
he didn't. You would have to
The
believe
private
he's
calls
actually
indicate
fucking
that he thought it.
retarded, and that
There's
he
evidence.
didn't.
Yes,
And
they
he
did.
actually went off on his own campaign team for losing him the fucking election right afterwards. The fact
All
that
the
he
private
actually
calls
asked
make
for investigations.
all of it shows that he
whether
thought
or
it.
not they lost, and each investigation came back and said, yes, you lost. There was no widespread fraud. The fact that like literally every single advisor told him otherwise, and then instead
Not
he
every
just gets an
single advisor.
out from Eastman.
And
okay,
Giuliani,
the-
and there was others as well.
Advisors that were actually within his administration.
Yeah,
not,
his
like,
closest,
random
like
nut
the people,
jobs that
yes,
were-
very close advisors that he had told him otherwise. He was, of course, under the belief that, in all the private phone calls that we have access
Giuliani
to,
wasn't even
and
under
all-
the belief.
of course,
Giuliani wasn't even
Giuliani
under
was
the
telling him
fucking
this
belief.
shit. Of
There
course
was-
he was.
No. Giuliani might have been telling him this, but it didn't it didn't seem as though Giuliani actually believed it in the scenarios like with him talking to what was it, Rassensberger in Georgia, where he's talking about the fact that like
That was
there was
Trump.
obviously fraud. They were stealing. No. It was Giuliani when they were talking about the fact that these people were taking buckets out from under the tables
Right.
and then using those. And they said, what evidence do you have that this happened? And he said, well, we don't actually know that it happened. They said, but you've been claiming all over television that it happened. So it's Trump. And he's like, yeah, it's our freedom of speech. Like, okay, so you don't actually have any evidence of this happening. You're just claiming that it's happening. You're lying because it's freedom of speech, which he got sued for and lost and
Look,
had to pay a lot of money out
Yeah,
to these people.
what I'm talking
But
about,
the
I'm
fact
referring
that
specifically to
the
Trump. I
idea
don't know about
that
all
the
the details
person-
as to Giuliani, but I'm saying that I think all the evidence demonstrates that Trump, I think that he's wrong. He genuinely believes that he won the 2020 election, right? And so when he's like saying this shit and he's saying, you fuckers, like, you stole it from me, this is bullshit. I think that even though some people can take that and go and commit violence, this does not mean that he's inciting violence any more than
You would have
somebody
to
who's
believe he's
critical of
retarded.
ICE is inciting
You would have
violence
to
against
believe he's
ICE.
retarded. Like, you would actually have to believe he's a fucking retard to think that he actually
Rhetoric
no.
aside, no, I don't think so.
Okay, well then, so I think
I think he was
had this
delusional. I don't think you have to be fucking retarded.
Okay, that's fair. I've gone. That's fair. Delusional.
Even
But
worse.
then, shouldn't that disqualify him to be president?
No, I don't think that having one delusion or even multiple
Delusion
necessarily
about an
disqualifies you.
actual meaningfully political position
I don't think this is like a super meaningful political position.
of whether you okay
For January
all right.
6th, whether you won the election, that like there's
Whether or not
no
you
question
won the
challenge
the
about that. Yeah.
outcome of an election. Okay.
No, I know that like it sounds like huge, and I'm not saying it's not like insignificant, but I'm saying that in terms of like you compare it to all the shit that's on the table right now, it's not something that I'm spending a lot of time worrying about. Like I'm much more concerned about like our geopolitical alignment and like what kind of shit we're doing in the world. I'm more interested in like, okay, the Second Amendment and gun laws, abortion restrictions or laxations of restrictions around the country. First Amendment shit, Fourth Amendment shit, taxes, tariffs, blah blah blah. Like all this shit to me, immigration, enforcement, right? All this to me is like, and especially, and this is the number one issue that I voted on in 2024, the court, right? So all this shit matters a fuck ton to me. And what happened back in 2020, sure, I don't like it, but I'm not going to be fucking dwelling on it 10 years from now. I'm not.
Here's the reason why I'm going to be dwelling on it, because he's completely undermined the entire process to the point to where people do not trust how the system works. They're now saying that there is widespread voter fraud with no proof to this whatsoever. Even 6 years later, we're talking about how there's no widespread voter fraud. Yes, voter fraud does exist, but it is statistically irrelevant. It's like
They're still claiming that illegals are
0.0035%.
coming in
Well,
to vote.
Yeah, which is not true either. But the thing is like, this is the reason why it bothers me, is because it undermines the entire system. He undermines the entire system. And because now other countries are seeing this like, wow, look what's gone over in that shit show of the United States. And they're 100% right, because they're saying, oh, well, our electoral process, like we actually reelected somebody that denied the 2020 election, and then he pardoned the very people that attacked our nation's capital when he said he was only going to pardon the people that were nonviolent offenders, but he pardoned the people that were violent too. Some of these people were monsters, for crying out loud. And listen, I know people are saying, oh, well, what about Biden? Listen, we could talk about Biden's fucking pardons, but we're talking about Trump's pardons because he's the president right now. I mean, this is why it's such a big deal, is because it undermines the very institutions and the very fabric of this country. It's all because he threw a temper tantrum, and you got people like Sidney Powell saying that a U.S. Spec Op teams launched an operation in Frankfurt, Germany, in a Seidel facility, and people were killed. Like, that's an international incident. That never happened. But people still believe that crap. That bothers the fuck out of me, that people still believe that. And this is not like onesies and two. There's like thousands, if not millions, of people that believe that shit, though. That's why I'm bothered by it.
Well, the peaceful transition of power is like a fundamental thing within our government. That was like, when I'm talking about like things that our country did, that things our country stands for, things that we were the first in, having a peaceful transition of power within a democracy was something that nobody thought was possible. And and then we did it literally every fucking time. Every time we did it until Trump. Trump is the first one to not have a peaceful transition of power, and this is fucked. Like it is. It is.
Well, hold on. When you say non, what do you mean by that? Was it a violent transfer of power?
Yes, January 6th was.
Yeah. So Trump launched a violent transfer of power, or how did that work?
Well, it's non-peaceful.
He was instrumental.
So, yeah. So like yes.
So there was
January,
there was a
January
riot that
6th
happened
was
at the Capitol
non-peaceful.
like 14 days earlier, right? Like, what do we mean by peaceful here, I guess is the question.
Well, the point of the riot was to delay the certification of the vote, right? That's part of the certification of the election.
My understanding is the rioters were trying to like get the politicians there or whatever to delay the certification of the vote for sure. But again, like, and I know, and this is going to be, I think, fundamentally where we disagree. I've looked at the timeline. Trump did not tell them to engage violently. He told them to go home.
Again, if you were told that the election was
allowed to do that.
stolen,
It's not violent.
that's not
Wait a
what I
minute.
asked. If you were told that the election was stolen, like, do you think that you would likely want to go and fight and go inside the Capitol?
I
Like, is
would.
that something that you think is reasonable to do if you think the
Wait a
election
minute.
is stolen?
I don't think so.
He also
circumstances.
told
You
him to
don't
go.
think so?
No.
What do you mean?
No. The circumstances of, we think that there's these particular states that have like fraud. Would I, if I genuinely believed it, I'd protest. I would like organize. I would do all that shit. But am I gonna like actually like break into the Capitol?
You're told they're
with,
inside of the Capitol
sure.
right now,
No,
stealing
yeah,
the
I get it.
election.
I get it. I get it. Yes, look, here's the problem. You're allowed to say that shit. Like Democrats for years have been saying,
you keep
stop.
saying you're allowed to
No,
say
yeah,
it.
yeah. But let me explain this way. Like Democrats for years have been erroneously saying that, there's unarmed black men are being like killed, like fucking genocided by the police. There's mass killings. The beliefs that people are under as to the number of unarmed black men that are killed by the police are wildly inaccurate because of this. And this, I think, pretty directly led to the BLM riots, and the 11 people or whatever, or the 20-something people that have died as a result of that, and the thousands, the billions of property damage, and the thousands of people who died as a result of policing changes that happened afterwards. Does this mean that people aren't allowed to go up and be like, dude, fuck the police, these police? Like, no, you're allowed to do that. You going up and criticizing the police, or even being wrong about something as it regards policing Black America today, that doesn't mean that you incited the BLM riots.
Oh no, I would say that you likely did. If you were saying these things and saying that they're not doing it, the state is not doing anything about it, and you're making this sound like a broad systemic issue at the time, the standard is like, fire in a theater, right? The standard is like, can you see the likely outcome from
think
your
there's a fire,
words
you
and
can
what's
yell
going
fire.
to happen from it?
Exactly.
Depending. So if I say I think there's a fire because I had red Skittles inside of my Skittles bag, I don't think so. I don't think that holds up. And I think that is analogous to what it is that Trump was doing when he was saying that the election was stolen from him.
No,
He
stop.
thinks that there were red Skittles inside of his bag, therefore the election was stolen.
No, he thought he
had
saw
no
smoke.
rationale. He had no reason for it. He had no logical thought process to come to that conclusion. Him just believing it. Okay, he believed
He had no
because there was
evidence.
fucking
No,
red
he
Skittles
thought
in a bag is absolutely
he
asinine.
thought he saw smoke. He had people around him that were telling him this was happening. He saw videos that, yes, were clipped out of context in many circumstances, combined with the fact that there were this was the first election in which a significant proportion of voting was happening through mail-in ballots, which simply hadn't happened before. And all these things kind of coming together to him, he thought he saw smoke. You are allowed to yell fire in a crowded theater if you think you see smoke. You're allowed to do that legally.
I mean, yes.
None of those things lead to fraud. Nothing you mentioned led to fraud. It just that's not nothing you mentioned is evidence of fraud.
The videos and people telling him that it's happening. Yes, when you're seeing clipped videos that indicates that it's happening, combined with the fact that you have people telling you that it's happening, and combine the fact that you have somebody with the ego that Donald Trump has, where he can't fathom the idea of him losing an election against fucking Joe Biden. Like, it all starts to come together to make sense that he probably did think that it was stolen from him.
So this is, I think, a broader philosophical question of like, Blacktoad, in your mind, is there ever a point where, as in like, there's a thing of that it exists of an unjustified, sincere belief?
Yes, there can be. Of course, I think a lot of beliefs are unjustified and sincere.
Okay, but then at least in your mind, if I'm tracking like your through line, it's like, well, since Trump's belief was sincere, it's like he's not doing anything wrong or like truly morally.
I don't think he's inciting. I think you can criticize him for his judgment and his incapacity to like read data. You could do that.
Okay,
but I don't think that you could like attribute like some kind of like malicious anti-democratic intent on his part.
Okay, is that the result? Because like there's no direct calls for violence from Trump. Is that your line?
My line would be, yeah, if if he orchestrated and actually called
Yelling
for
fire in a theater. isn't a
violence-
Well, let
direct
me
call for
continue.
people
Let
to
me
start shooting.
let me continue.
if he actually
Go
like
ahead.
called for violence, that would probably be enough. And also if he thought like genuinely thought that he lost the election, and for whatever reason that came out, I think that would be really bad. I think
Okay,
that
so
would
then-
demonstrate malicious intent if he thought at the time.
No, but like, I'm trying to. So, in your mind, like the speech that he gave, okay, on January 6th, like, would you overall characterize that as like, well, that was a peaceful or non-violent speech?
Yeah, I would say nonviolent.
Okay, so because there's no explicit calls for violence.
Explicit, or I think at one point he even says to do it peacefully.
Okay, but even if like that was removed,
Kind of.
like just removing that, is that the only thing? That's the only modifiers, and since he included that, that makes everything else.
Yeah, I think him including that
He
makes
said,
it very
"I
clear.
believe
Well, I'm not
will
done. I'm not done. I'm
March. Well, I just
I'm
want
not
to
done.
correct the last part. He said, "Oh no,
I'm
not-
trying
not-
to. I'm
not
trying to get
jumping
to
in.
something.
I'm not jumping in. I'm just saying what he said was, I believe you guys are going to march peacefully and
He
patriotically."
said, "I
He
know
didn't
you
tell them
will."
to. He said, "I believe you." Yeah,
No,
I know you will.
I know
Okay.
you will. That's telling them to. Come on.
Okay,
Close enough.
but like,
I mean,
but
I just
wait, no.
wanna-
If that line was removed, does that like then make it a violent speech too, or
no,
still non-violent?
If you remove that line, I still don't believe that it's incitement to violence. The fact
Okay.
that that line is in there, though, I think makes it clear that it
Oh,
wasn't.
it makes a better case, right? So
Mhm.
even in the absence of that line, though, it still falls under non-violence, right?
Yeah.
Since there's no direct call. So then, like at least based off of that metric, you would categorize something like Mein Kampf as non-violence towards Jews.
I think he directly
no
calls
direct-
for. I think he does call for direct violence.
No,
against
there's
Jews.
no explicit calls for a direct killing of Jews in Mein Kampf.
I don't know if I believe that.
I've
Okay.
never read Mon Kampf, so yeah.
I think that he hints.
There
like,
are no-
He's got to get rid of them.
There, no, there's no explicit
Hold on.
direct calls for the killing of Jews in Mein Kampf.
Lactoid's got to ruin his Google search for me. I'll give him a second. Like,
I know
Well,
he's gonna search.
I want to throw in there that like Bill Barr did testify that Donald Trump knew that he lost the election. So did his numerous people within the Department of Justice said that he knew that he lost the election. Intelligence officials, cabinet advisors, like tons of people within who were close to him, they all testified that he knew he lost the election. Not just that he was told, not just that he was like given this information that he lost, like, but that he knew, he was well aware that he lost the election and chose to continue pushing different narratives anyways.
How does he say he know? How does he know? How does Barr know? that Trump knew?
I don't remember the full testimony from Barr. I just remember.
Well, the thing was is that like he actually held a meeting where Bill Barr and Stephen Miller, Rudy Giuliani, and Sidney Powell, and some of the other members of his administration, all the people that said no, you actually lost the election, they were fighting with one another. And he got so frustrated. It's like, where's my Roy Cohn? He actually said this. He's like, because Roy Cohn was like the guy that really taught him never apologize, never back down, always double down, always go on the counteroffensive, because he doesn't want to admit that he lost. He never wants to admit that. That's why he's still the same way he is. Every time something bad happens with his administration, it's never his fault. He blames everybody else. But when something good happens, he takes all the credit for it. That's just who Donald Trump is. That's why he can never say
But he
that he
did
lost 20%.
blame his campaign staff for losing
Yeah.
the fucking
I-
election. Like
I
he
know,
blamed
I
them
know.
for losing.
Yeah, he blamed people like that one guy because I can't remember what his fucking name. The dude, he went ballistic and like had a gun, or he was like half naked. I can't remember what his name is, but like he was the guy that set up the Tulsa rally, and it was a disaster. And he blamed him. That's when he fired that guy for that shit. I mean, the guy is he's an egotist. He's a narcissist at the highest order. But the thing is, though, like he is never ever he can never be wrong. That's the thing, and that's the thing. And listen, it's fine if people say I have TDS. I'll admit that outright, but I have a good reason for that because I have never seen a president act like this before in my entire fucking life. It's insane how he is.
Okay, real quick, a couple things. So Bill Barr, not Bill Burr, Bill Barr
Funny guy though.
stated that, but nothing I'm seeing. It appears to be the reason he's saying this is sort of along the lines of what you guys are saying, which is like, well, obviously he should have known. Like Trump did not admit this to him. There's no actual like evidence that was presented other than Barr's own speculation. So his testimony that Trump knew full well is not evidence at all. It's
But
more
even
just,
when you're
it's
bringing up the videos
speculation.
and
It's
things that
Barr.
that are convincing to
But hold on.
Trump,
But there, you
those
know,
are the people who investigated those
but
things.
there's somebody.
That's the
No,
problem,
so
is that
I'm
you're
going to
saying,
tell you
"Hey, he
here. You
believed
trust
random
Pence?
YouTube videos."
So no,
They
this is
investigated those things.
this is Pence, right? So Pence, for example, following this, I think Pence was in a perhaps closer situation there. Pence's his specific statement, I think, indicates a little bit of a different situation. Quote, sadly, the president was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers that kept telling him what his itching ears wanted to hear. The president ultimately continued to demand that I choose him over the Constitution. So this is Pence saying this, that there's a
I'm
bunch of
aware of that.
lawyers, a bunch
I
of
agree with
lawyers
that.
around him telling him what his ears wanted to hear.
I agree
Which
with
again,
that part.
which I just said before, somebody like Trump who is seeing this stuff on social media, who has a massive ego to begin with, and who has these lawyers around him that are telling him it was stolen from you, perfectly believable that he genuinely believed that the election was stolen from him. Even if you want to judge him for his
As much as I think
judgment
he's
on
a
that,
fucking idiot,
of
I
course.
don't think he's that
I know
dumb.
he's totally stupid, except for this. Then he's actually smart enough. I understand. But when it
No,
comes
I
to
do.
when
I
it comes to
actually
my
think he is
sure,
smart. I think he is smart.
don't.
I
Okay.
I think that people are annoying when they say that he's dumb because they take away all culpability from him.
Okay. When it comes to, I don't know. I think that he believes it was stolen from him. Mein Kampf, according to this AI overview.
But
Corey,
that would be your
I know.
narrative.
Which
is
model?
That he's dumb when it's convenient and
No,
smart. when
I
it's
know. I
convenient.
think he's a somewhat smart person. I think that he does have certain delusions over challenges to his ego. I think that is a personality trait of his, where he has kind of this grandiose view of himself and like what he does for America, and how people love him, right? And I think that when you have circumstances like the 2020 election, in which you have a massive shift in the way things are done, a massive amount of votes that had like never happened before nor since, and videos that are coming to his attention which appear to show fraud, combined with lawyers around him telling him that there is fraud, it all makes sense. I know that you think he's smart enough to like overcome all of that. I don't think that his ego would let him. I don't. But fair enough. I guess if you that's your judgment of him, where you think that actually the whole time he genuinely believed that he lost the election, but he wanted to circumvent American democracy and I guess install himself as king for life or something. I don't know. I see no evidence of that. I see no plan of that for that. Even
Well, I don't know about
even
king for life, but
assuming
you do see the fucking fake slate of electors. You do
yeah,
see the plan
yes,
for him
I see.
trying
Yeah,
to
the fake
stay
slate
in
of
the
electors.
White House.
I get that, the fake slate of electors. But here's the thing: ultimately, the Supreme Court would be evaluating that any kind of situation that were to come after that and begin to start with. And so you're telling me that he knew that he lost. So you're saying that he knew they wouldn't find any kind of fraud that would be sufficient to alter the election. And despite that, he believed that Congress, the American people, who I guess now he knows most of them voted against him, and the Supreme Court would all shift and rally to his side, despite the fact that there was no fraud, and that he would be able to remain in power. This is what you think that he
Yes, I
thought.
think he was hoping that he was
Okay.
able to use the Supreme Court, who he was hoping would be loyal to him, which he's numerous times expressed his how upset he is that they're not being loyal to him in numerous scenarios.
Did he not
And
pressure
that,
Mike
yes,
Pence
he was
to do
hoping
the right
he
thing?
would
It
be
was like largely.
Yes, he was. I was gonna say, and
Yes,
then he was
'cause he
pressuring
thought
other people to
yes,
be
he thought
loyal
there
to
was
him in these scenarios as well.
he thought there was outcome determinative fraud. Yes. And when you look at his
And even
actions,
JD Vance, when he talks about the fact that
yes,
he would do this
yeah.
for Donald Trump, he frames it as loyalty as well, and the fact that
When-
he would do it if he was faced with the same circumstances.
all of it to me, like when you look at his actions, it makes it clear that Trump genuinely believed that there would be outcome determinative fraud that would be discovered at some point. He thought it'd be discovered. This would be reviewed by the Supreme Court. They would find that like Georgia and other states fucked up with how they were running things, that there was significant fraud, and that he was the legitimate victor. That's what he thought. I think the most evidence is for that, based on the private phone calls that he had, based on the circumstances that he was in, that Mike Pence has talked about. And yes, even if you have an unsupported belief, you have the right to go and talk about it. That is the First Amendment. That is the basis of all religion in this country, which you have a right to.
To an extent,
I don't
again,
disagree with
to
that.
an extent, that's not true. There are limits to freedom of speech, and I think that if you're not rationally going through, you just see YouTube videos claiming things, and you're like, "Oh, well, they must have happened." Then I think that you are a very irrational person, and I think that the freedom of speech, when it takes into consideration whether or not you can yell fire in a crowded theater, that it is talking about whether or not you are being a rational person, not just whether or not you believe it's
You get to express
happening in
irrational
reality.
opinions. You get to express look. Half the people I argue with express, in my opinion, irrational opinions. You get to express irrational opinions in this country. I think that most of my political opponents are irrational on many of the things we disagree with. This does not mean that I get to stop them or silence them when they go out and say irrational things about a genuinely held political beliefs that they have. It's not the way this country works.
Sure, but then when there are negative outcomes afterwards that they should have seen coming, they should be held accountable for them legally.
No, I think that I think all the media figures and all the politicians that hyped up BLM, I think that they were a lot of them were maybe not lying in their mind, but they were spreading a lot of misinformation. I do not think they should get in legal trouble for that. I don't think
I
they
agree
should be
some
arrested
people
for any
did
of
that. I don't know that it's as widespread.
should
but I
not be
do think
arrested.
that, yes, people who were saying, yes, if people are saying that you're like that nobody's being that like black people are getting killed all over the place and that nobody's even investigating these just unarmed black people all in the streets
Mhm.
getting killed by cops. Yeah, I think that like those people ought
Should be
to have
arrested.
been yeah, I think that yes, I think
Wow.
that if there was if there's a serious case of them pushing this information, then yes, I think that they should be held accountable legally as well.
Legally.
For sure.
What about, so do you just like a carve out for religion, or should, like, because I can't justify the virgin birth to you.
What? Hold on. We're not just talking about somebody being wrong. We're talking about there being obvious outcomes, like negative outcomes from this.
Christianity has
violent
obvious
outcomes from what
outcomes
it is
in
they're saying.
society.
All religion has outcomes in a society, actually, if you think about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're talking about
it's
violent outcomes.
yeah.
What-
Well, they all have
Yeah.
violent outcomes. I mean, if you think about it, though, like Bill O'Reilly at one point was called an abortion doctor like a mangler or something like that. Then he got killed by somebody because, oh my God, this guy's sacrificing children to the altar or some shit like that. I mean, people do crazy shit, especially if you put a religious twist in it. People will go even more bonkers for it. I mean, that's why we've seen and in my honest assessment, nothing has caused more harm to humanity than organized religion. It's not even fucking close, honestly. And I doesn't mean violent harm. I'm simply saying harm in many different facets. We're talking about financial
But
harm.
also lots of violence.
Yeah, but lots of violence, yes. But I'm talking about harm in general. And like harm doesn't have to be violent. It could just be like financial harm, sexual harm, physical harm of any sorts. Like nothing that has everybody.
I agree to an
beat the-
extent.
You
I
see
think
the
that it's
slippery
come with a
slope,
lot of
Tom?
good as well. I think no, I don't, because that's not. Hold on, we're not just talking about people who are like preaching, because the majority of the people who go to church on Sunday are not going out in like committing acts of violence, right? But when we're talking, if somebody is using their religion to try to convince them that like, hey, this person is this person over here is the Antichrist, and in like 30 minutes they're getting ready to like burn all of these people and blah blah blah, and you as the soldiers for Christ, you're the only ones who can do something about it. They didn't tell them to
No,
do something
I hear what
explicitly
you're
violent.
saying.
They
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
explicitly
Hold
call
on.
for
Yeah.
violence.
Trump,
Like when they're saying something like this.
No. Hold on. You absolutely get to go out, and it is your First Amendment protected right to say, like, you are all crusaders for Christ or whatever. You can say that shit. And yes, if some people take that, and let's say like with Islamic terrorism in America, for example, some people take the lessons given by their imam and then go commit Islamic terrorism, which is like I think the number one, at least I think it's killed more people than I think almost
Yes,
any
but
other
again,
single
it's
motivation.
about whether or not you
I
can
don't-
reasonably see this as the conclusion to your rhetoric.
I
That's
don't.
like,
Yes,
we're not-
most
it's
not
not-
only
there's no
did
slippery
most
slope.
people who saw Trump's tweets not commit violence, most people on the Capitol on January 6th didn't even commit violence. It was a minority of a minority. And a tiny minority, according to the FBI, a tiny minority of that, only about 5% of the population, actually had some kind of like ideologically motivated plan in terms of like what they actually wanted to get done. We're talking about a small group of people. Yes, you can have small
I
groups of
agree.
people get motivated by general opinions that people put out, whether those opinions are substantiated or not. I don't know. I think this is a pretty like regressive and repressive opinion you hold on. Personally, I don't want to be arrested because I give a take that turns out to like be ill-informed or not true, or more scary, is true, but the people in charge say it's not. That's what I'm really scared
Well,
about,
I
right?
think that sort of thought process is exactly why we end up with somebody as asinine as fucking Trump right now,
Yes,
who is
we
leading
should have a
bunch of
leader.
cultists to go
You're
out
right.
and
You're
do
right.
retarded shit on a
No.
daily
This is a good
fucking
point.
basis.
This is
That
a
we
good.
should be holding people accountable for the
Sure.
misinformation that people.
This is a good point. We should give the government, currently headed by Trump, the ability to arrest people for spreading misinformation in the opinion of what the government thinks is
We
misinformation.
already have the ability. The Supreme Court has already given this
No!
precedent. We already have the
What
ability.
case?
Undo the fact that what do you mean? What case?
What case?
Literally the fact that Donald Trump, part of what Jack Smith was holding against him that they had to drop because he won the presidency again is that he did know that he was
Those,
uh,
they
uh,
alleged.
lost the election and
They
that he
alleged
was
that, yeah.
inciting. Yeah.
What is the? Is there any kind of like law, Supreme Court precedents here? Like what?
When I'm talking about the fire in a crowded theater that is used by a Supreme Court justice to say that this is where freedom of speech ends because you can reasonably see the outcomes of your rhetoric.
It's not the no. That's not the standard. The Brandenburg test is the standard. It's very permissive. It requires that a statement be made with the intent to get people to commit violence, and it needs to be a certain level of imminency to commit violence. There is no ideological truth test when it comes to the First Amendment in this country. We allow the Supreme
I
Court
don't think the
allowed
Brandenburg test only
on the
requires intent.
it does. It requires intent. When it comes to whether or not we allow repugnant and false ideologies to have equal ground in America, in Skokie, the Supreme Court allowed the Klan to march through a black neighborhood, chanting their shit. That's protected speech. It was protected speech for the Klan to march down a street yelling their racist lies. That is the First Amendment. And then Corey.
Yeah, I guess it does. It does. It is directed incitement producing imminent lawless action likely to incite or produce such
Yep.
action.
It needs to be imminently
but it
likely,
doesn't-
and it
does-
also needs to be intentionally. It is a two-part test. So in order to demonstrate that under the Brandenburg test that he incited, you would have to show that Trump not only intended to get the crowd to go do violence, but that he knew that through his action, like through his words and actions, that it would cause such a result imminently. That's the two prongs that you'd have to demonstrate. And just sharing your opinion is not that, because again, just prior to this in Skokie, the Supreme Court allowed the Klan to march through a black
I think
neighborhood.
you can demonstrate that. I think that with Trump, you can demonstrate that. I think the fact that they already had, I guess, again, people stating that he did know. Then on top of that, the fact that he moved his rally
Some people
on the
stated
day, on
it, but
January
doesn't-
6th from where it was initially supposed to be somewhere totally different. Now all of a sudden they have it right by the Capitol. It's like two miles.
That doesn't
not even 2 miles
demonstrate
from
that
the
he
Capitol now.
that the speech was intended. You have to prove intent. You have to prove that Trump intended the people to become violent and to attack the Capitol, and that he knew that they would. You have to prove both.
Wait, do you think Giuliani could be gotten for that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you're going to show me anybody that can
Literally,
be proven
like with
that their
the trial
statements,
by combat and everything.
Yes. When you look at everything in context, the whole speech. No, I think that I think it is to me, it is a kind of scary sort of like infringement upon people's right to speak their opinion, and I wouldn't apply this to Democrats. I just would,
What were you
despite the
gonna
fact that I think that a lot of Democrats are, I guess, responsible in some sense, in the sense that they peddled a bunch of lies regarding race politics in America that led to mass riots. I don't think that they should be arrested. I don't think they should be imprisoned.
What were you gonna say? to Corey?
Somebody going out and getting in like MAGA people's faces while they're out having dinner, and like what's her name, Maxine Waters, and the stuff that she was saying, telling people to go out and like
I don't think
harass people.
I do not think Maxine Waters should be arrested.
Yeah,
for
because
incitement.
Tucker Carlson did the same thing. Let's
I
go.
don't think Tucker Carlson should be arrested. For me,
Yeah,
when it
I'm
comes
just
to
saying he did the
when
same
it
thing
comes to
as
going
Maxine
when it comes to
Waters.
going after people for the things that they say, this is a constitutional right, and there are some
Well-
exceptions, but it needs to be very.
What
like,
were you gonna say to Corey?
The assumption needs to be always against enforcement as opposed to pro enforcement.
Okay, I just
When-
feel like at that point there's no line
Exactly.
because these are literally
There's
calls to
some- there's-
action. So I feel like it's in
Hold on
it's
a
a
second.
pointless
I want to get to
conversation at that
this
point.
Corey exchange. I want to make sure we get to that.
Okay, I'm
Well,
gonna
he's
give you
gonna probably the Mein
AI.
Kampf,
yeah the AI
summary.
overview.
What was your prompt?
Does Mein Kampf call for death to Jews?
Okay, so I think I used the language that I use is like explicit direct calls for the killing of Jews.
Okay, here's my specific.
Um,
Well, hold on, because the question
But
now is
yeah.
whether or not it's violent or non-violent. So I would consider this to be a violent piece of literature, given the fact that, quote, yes, Mein Kampf calls for the violent elimination of Jewish people. While Hitler does not detail his later industrialized mass extermination plans in his 1925 book, he directly described the removal of Jews from Germany as a, quote, bloody process. He also famously wrote that if 12,000 to 15,000, quote, Hebrew corruptors of the people
That were subjected to, I think,
had been
poison
poisoned
gas.
with gas at the start of World War I, millions of German casualties could have been avoided. I think this
That's
is
retrospective.
I think this is violent.
There's no direct
yeah,
calls for killing of Jews.
I think this is violent literature. I would not ban it as incitement.
Just to kind of like close out
So
this. like,
wait. I want to clarify. As in, like, this is not incitement to the killing of Jews.
I don't think it meets the test for incitement, the Brandenburg
No, okay.
test.
All right.
I do consider it to be
Andre.
a violent piece of literature, though.
But you agree that there's no explicit calls for the direct killing of Jews.
I mean,
But even when there are explicit calls, he doesn't care. So.
there's sort of a call, but it's definitely not imminent. It's not like it doesn't. I don't think pass the imminency test, right? Because the imminency test is like in the moment kind of situation.
Yeah.
Because here's
I
the
agree,
problem. Yeah. Because here's the other
that
problem.
poison gas, that's in the
No,
past. He's saying, yeah.
I understand. Because here's the problem, though, Corey. Because we roll with this logic. Not only are we banning Mein Kampf, we're banning the Communist
I'm
Manifesto.
not necessarily saying
We're banning all of Das Kapital. We're banning the Bible. We're book burning to a degree that has like never been heard like fucking
Where
seen
did I ever
before.
call for banning? Can someone please point out anywhere?
Well,
that
no,
where I
because we're
called for-
talking. The conversations about legal action and like silencing people over this thing shit. I consider
Well,
this
maybe
to
your
be a
conversation
violent.
with Tom, but I'm just more.
Maybe I'm crossing
I
wires a
don't
little
say
bit then.
anything like that.
Maybe I'm crossing wires a little bit. In terms of literature, I can identify some literature as being violent. I think the Old Testament has a lot of violence in it. I think that Mein Kampf has violence in it. Based on that quote right there, I think it's incredibly violent. I think Das Kapital, I think the Communist Manifesto has violence in it as well, with the calls and the implicit calls that are within it for sure. I think in a lot of early American literature for the Revolution, I think it was violent literature. Thomas Paine, stuff like that, you can characterize as violent literature.
Sure,
and in fact,
yeah,
some
I
of that
agree.
might even be closer to incitement than some of these other pieces of literature, to be honest with you. But like, again, for me, the incitement is an exception to the First Amendment, and it needs to be as narrow as possible. As somebody who really likes freedom of speech, I want to have all the exceptions be as narrow as possible and say, look, we have to have this exception for very, very compelling interest, but we don't want people to take this exception and use it to start silencing other shit because they don't like it for other reasons, or to start expanding this beyond the scope, because that is what every repressive government has always ever done. They've always taken Hitler declared a state of emergency because, of course, I have to, and then proceeded to undermine and unravel the entire government. This is just this is the playbook, and we can't let that happen.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Alex. And we'll wrap things up from here.
When it comes down to like, listen, I don't want to engage on the Mein Kampf bit, and like I'm very much against book banning myself. Like it's all about like you can teach any subject material wrong in school. It's all about based upon the teacher. But I just have one question for Lactoid. So Lactoid, if Donald Trump did accepted the results of the election, would the events of January 6th have happened?
Probably not.
I would definitely say no. I would definitely agree with you on that. So in a way, he actually does pose some responsibility in this regard. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying, and I have no juice to like make a legal case about it, but it's just because he pushed this whole thing about the election being stolen. That's what led to the events of January 6th, and everybody knew why they were there. So, but anyway, we can go and wrap it up.
Sure. No, you can draw some causation, and this is the thing. Like, even the people that genuinely believe something that I think is like, I just think is wrong, and their advocacy of that leads to bad policy or bad shit. Like, I think that, yeah, I'm not going to hold them legally responsible because they have the right to advocate for that. I'm not going to, and if they genuinely believe it, like, I'm not going to think that they're malicious people. But I can have bad opinions about their intelligence or how easily they're deluded. You can say that. Like rent control, obviously terrible fucking policy, but there's so many people that are supporting it. And I'm like, guys, this is really bad policy. Look at all the studies. Look at everything here that shows rent control is really bad. But if they genuinely believe it, they're not bad. Like they're not malicious with advocating for that. They genuinely think that
Enrique
it's good policy.
Tarrio literally said that Trump told them to go to the Capitol.
Yes, I'm sure he told them to go to the Capitol and protest. There is no evidence that Trump told Enrique Tarrio, who, by the way, I don't think was at the Capitol. I think he was one of the few people arrested that actually never even showed up to the Capitol. But I don't think there's any evidence that Donald Trump told Enrique Tarrio to organize an attack on the Capitol, because that would be big news.
You don't need to be in the same location where the crime took place. I mean, you got to remember, like,
he was arrested. I mean, I'm not saying that Enrique Tarrio, like, that his case was entirely bunk. But I mean, you got
well, and then the fact that Trump, pardoned.
Well, everyone got pardoned. Like, wow, that's not saying anything. Like,
yeah.
But his sentence was crazy, like way too long. Though I will say that.
Sorry. Okay. I mostly didn't engage with this part. You guys have studied this more than I have. But I just want to ask one thing to Lactoid, then we can wrap this up.
Yes, sir.
You said Trump told them to go home. You said you looked at the timeline and Trump told them to go home. But this was like after they had already
2 p.m. or something
stormed the Capitol.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was, I believe,
almost 3 hours.
I believe, yeah, this was after he was told that his vice president was in danger, right? Like, certainly after that. Like,
and I believe we have testimony, or at least people testifying that he sat and like basically watched, and people were calling him.
Yeah. So
they're pressuring him
to say something. To go home, but like, yeah, he watched for a long time. Then he's like, guys, maybe we should head out and go home. It's all over. Like, that's different. If I'm saying immediately, like, when things are getting out of hand, like, let the people know I proclaim that this is wrong. Back off. Right?
Yeah, look, again, you can criticize the way he handled it. I think there's definitely, I've said I don't like it. I think there's things you can criticize there with his reaction time. He did tell them to go home, which is not the behavior that you would expect from somebody who was trying to launch a armed coup. He also would have told them maybe directly to like go get your guns and actually attack the Capitol.
Of course you can do that. Hold on, sorry. These things are not in opposition to one another, right? You can understand when the coup has failed, right? And then you tell your crew members, whatever, to go home, right? Like you could have reasons to do that. Like, also, hey, since I'm not going to take over the government, I might get prosecuted, and so I need to appear like, yes, I understand things have gone too far. Things got heated here, but everyone, we want everyone to be safe. Yeah, those things aren't an opposition.
Look, if you're saying that everything he did, from telling them to be peaceful at the beginning to telling them to go home when the violence started. If you think that this is all like
not when the violence started.
I said after
the violence started.
Yeah, when as in like the violence began, and then obviously chronologically afterwards.
I'm sorry.
You're good. You can have the standard of, well, this was just to create plausible deniability, and to some extent this is like unfalsifiable. Like I can't disprove this because him doing anything could generate plausible deniability. What I'm seeing is that if somebody wanted to launch a violent coup on the Capitol, they wouldn't have done it this way.
all I'm saying, not that it's the case, but like
Isn't he
these
that?
things aren't a
Couldn't that be
contention.
reflective
They
of his
suck at
incompetence?
coups, guys.
Yeah,
They're
maybe
horrible.
he's just bad. Yeah, maybe he intended to
Yeah.
it, and then he was generating
bad at a
political
lot of
liability,
things.
and he was really bad at coups. Maybe,
Wait. Do you think like he's competently engaging with Iran?
He's also, by the way, speaking of the fact that he's the commander in chief, he was the commander in chief on January 6th. He could have done a lot more if he wanted to launch a
Well,
coup.
he also could have had the Coast Guard go after, instead of blaming Nancy Pelosi as though she's the commander in chief. He could
You
have
mean the
had them
National
there from
Guard
the
or the
very
Coast
beginning.
Guard?
Or the
He-
National
he-
Guard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
blamed her for like
Launch the
was
boats.
pretty-
January
because she
6th
was
is happening.
in charge of Capitol Police. Yeah, he blamed her. I don't know
She
all the
wasn't in charge
details.
of Capitol Police,
what he
but
says.
she was in charge of.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
she wasn't in charge of Capitol Police, but she was in charge of like the guy who was in charge
The Senate of
Capitol
Arms,
Police.
the
Sure.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Arms.
So he's pointing to somebody else who he says like, well, you should have prevented this. Sure. Yeah, I'm sure he would say that.
Okay. Yeah, because he doesn't take responsibility for anything. I mean, that's just the type of person he is. Another reason why he's quintessentially American. Okay, so
I was
thank you.
about to say is why he's quintessentially American.
So thank you, fellas, for coming through. This was unfortunately, things happen, schedules change, people get sick, but you fine fellas came through, and this was, I think, a pretty good conversation. We drifted to the near the end, but like I was interested in what you guys were talking about. Yeah, I think it actually goes to the point, like, yeah, does America need to be celebrated when, like, it's, I would agree with Tom, or Phil Latchwood disagrees with me here, that yeah, this was a violent transfer of power, right? Like, we had a streak going,
ADS.
and that was something to be proud of, I think. And then January 6th happened, and so, like, I don't know, is this country worth celebrating? That's a really hard thing to answer for me. And, I have a friend who is very much critical of the United States, a foreigner, right? Which, that's my fault for having a foreign friend. But they're very much critical of it, and like knowing my politics within that sphere, I try to push back, and I think this country still has hope. I think that we have hope to be better than we were before,
mean
than
hope
we
and
are
change?
now. Yeah, that we can change, right? I still engage in the political process, right? I do these conversations because I think something will happen. I think I wouldn't do these conversations if we were like in fucking Saudi Arabia, right?
He probably couldn't. I don't know.
I probably could, or even if I was outside of Saudi Arabia, right? Like, I don't think these conversations would be fruitful, right? If we were just like,
Yeah, but you like Saudi Arabia better, where they throw gay people off of roofs for some reason.
must, right?
Prime. If we were having this
Um,
conversation anywhere else, we'd still be talking about American politics.
No,
That's probably true.
That's a good point. Good point. But yeah, so I still engage in the same way, because I think there's hope to change. And so, like, if anything, that's what I celebrate. I don't celebrate the actual actions, because the actions are deplorable, fucking deplorable, what this country has done, what it is doing at this point. All right,
The basket of deplorable.
fuck George W. Bush, fuck George W. Bush, fuck Barack Obama, fuck Joe Biden, and especially fuck Joe Biden, and then fuck Donald Trump. Yeah, like, I think these people are all criminals. I think this country continues to engage in horrible acts that, like, destroy the lives of millions. Right? We have the blood of a whole school of little girls. Right? We just slaughtered them. That's just what America does. Oopsie poopsie. I guess it wasn't a big deal. These things just happen in war, right? 9/11 is a big fucking deal, right? That 3,000 people, those are innocents. They died. How could they, right?
Well, they're largely
but
Americans,
those-
so
But those
It's
a
worse.
school full of innocent little girls, it's just
But
you know,
America
what
isn't
can
just
you
the
do?
government, though.
what can
Like,
you do?
it's not just the government, and it's there's a lot more to America that includes people like what is it, Ruby? Ruby,
Ruby Bridges.
I don't know. Yeah, Ruby Bridges, and
Bridges,
and,
yeah.
you know, the
Integrate the schools.
yes, yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm blanking on every fucking name right now. I want to say
That's
like the
fine. It's
lady
okay, friend.
who's
Like
tied
a
the back
true
to the
American.
bus, like, but yes, like all of these, there's so many other things that are like, this is also part of America. These people are part of like American history and what it is that like has made our country great.
I agree with that, and I would say this to my friend. However, right, like let's understand that America doesn't treat other countries in the same way, right? When we're going out there, we're not saying, well, yes, Iran is
You're number
has
one.
effective futures,
Back-to-back
but like
World War
at
champions,
the same
baby.
time, right? Like Iran has such a rich tapestry of cultures and such a long, deep history, right? And so, like, yes, the IRGC equals bad. But there's a lot more to Iran. America doesn't do that. America doesn't do that to any other place, right? But we demand others like look at us as a rich tapestry of individuals who all have different opinions. We don't operate that way. We just don't do that. And so, like, when other countries, especially, are looking at us, right? Like, what should they think about America on the 4th of July, right? I think America is just a massive danger to them, right? That they just have to work their way around. If they're within an imperial the sphere, then they have to, give what do you do when you give donations to the king? Like offerings or something, right? Tributes. Yes, thank you. Yeah, give tributes to America to stay on its good side. If you're not within the imperial sphere, well, then you have to do everything you can to resist, and you'll probably get slaughtered. And probably you have a school full of little girls who get double or triple tap. I'm hearing they got triple tapped in that strike. And then American media will say, it's just nothing we could do, just a mistake, right? American conservatives, nothing we can do, right? This is war, and that's just what war looks like. The casualties just happen when it's brown people. So yeah, like America is a terror upon the world, and a terror that has done some good things, which is what we'll be told, right? Yeah, it's done some good things, but like so oftentimes has been the reason for people starving, people being directly tortured, right, or indirectly tortured. Like this is just the sins of America, the blood on America that on its hands. It's just endless. It's endless, right? But again, I still have hope.
Well,
I still have hope.
USA.
USA. I'll do it. Hey, I'll do USA. USA.
Dude, that was a fucking motivating speech for me, bro. Let's go.
Yeah.
Can I give a closing statement against you, Prime?
Sure. Of course you can. Where else would you? What else would you do?
So I come from a family where my mother came here from a different country, and I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not like I came from some kind of terrible place. It's a first world developed nation. Pretty good. Not terrible. I visited there a few times. Fun place to hang out.
I haven't gotten a wife there.
And there's some.
That's where you should have gone to get a wife. But okay, go
They're
ahead.
all left wing.
Sorry.
There's some magical things there, but one of the things that I noticed when I would talk about politics or talk about America or Sweden there with the people that lived there was that they would talk about Sweden in the way that you would talk about America, where the grass was always greener, where oh well, in America you guys make more money than we do, which is true by a significant margin. Your median income in America is significantly higher than it is in Sweden or these other Nordic countries. It's even higher than the wealthiest Nordic country, I believe, in terms of disposable income per capita, Norway. Yeah, despite the fact that Norway has massive advantages when it comes to the natural resource sector, and also they've made some smart moves when it came to their sovereign wealth fund.
Countrywide well-being or satisfaction.
We don't even have free
when
health
it comes
care.
to we don't even have free healthcare. I get it. And at the time I would bring that up to them, and they would say, yeah, it's great, but you can America, you can just go get seen. Here, we got to wait long ass fucking lines. My grandfather just recently had a bike accident, and when you're in your late 70s or early 80s,
Motorcycle?
that's no. Although he was a motorcycle cop for a long time, but it was a bicycle accident because he's an active guy, and they had to pull him off of the rehab that he was in because there wasn't enough space. There wasn't enough. I don't know why I'm all blurry all of a sudden. Wasn't enough space for him. And of course, this is a complaint that I get from the people there as well. You can always find something to bitch about the place that you live. You can always find something to bitch about the job that you're in. You can always find something to bitch about the relationship you're in, about everything that you do, because the unknown, the mysterious, always seems better. But the reality is, on the objective metrics, America's pretty fine. And on even the more qualitative metrics, I think America has demonstrated itself to be truly unique. What other country has the cultural force that we do, that has made such works of art through movies and music throughout the entire world? What other country has? Honestly, you can point to the shit that we've done recently, which I don't agree with, but look at things in totality. We helped smash fascism in Europe, and we rebuilt that country. We rebuilt Germany into the country it is today. Everybody there would not be the way they are if it wasn't for us. We saved that area. That was in large part us. We defeated militarism in Japan. These people that were wiping out the Chinese and developing, Unit 731, where they were inventing weaponized fleas to drop in canisters over civilian areas, massacring thousands of people. We went and stopped them, and we rebuilt that country too into what it is today. And we saved South Korea, and we saved Taiwan. American history is not replete with failures. We like to focus on them because we want to strive to improvement. But we have a lot that we've done that I think does make us a shining city on a hill in a lot of respects. And I don't want this sort of cynicism, which I share in a lot of situations, but I don't want the cynicism to overcome us recognizing really that we should be self-critical, but only to make ourselves more perfect. We are pretty good. It's all right. Things will be okay.
I talked about imperialism and genocides, and the things, or at least you first brought up, were culture and having spare cash. Well, fantastic. Later on, you did bring in violence that we help avoid, and that's true. That definitely did happen, right? We've done far more violence, though. We've killed far more people. We've inflicted far more suffering upon the world. We haven't been twiddling our mustache throughout all of history. That's true. You got me there, right? At some point, right, we've dropped a few oranges, right, in these various countries. Enjoy our benevolence. Yes, that's happened, right? Oh, and yes, World War II. Let's never. Hey guys, did you forget? Hey, Corey, did you forget that America was
World War champions?
I think America was the first into the war, if I remember correctly. World War II.
Yeah,
I think they were number one.
I think so. I think they led the charge. Yeah, sure.
Shaky.
So World War II.
I think there was no hesitation whatsoever from the Americans.
Yeah.
That is the aberration in a long history of just causing utter suffering throughout the world. But yes, it happened. It did happen. You can't take it away, right? It's on the scoreboard. It is on the scoreboard, and I won't deny it, right? But then there's the other side of the scoreboard. There's everything else. So you know what? But I agree. America isn't all bad. So I'm going to give that 1 point.
Hey, yo, we win.
Yeah, I'll just give a quick closing statement if that's okay.
Okay.
I'll try to make it as fast as possible. So the thing is I do love my country. I just know it's just filled with morons. I'm just very, very open about that because it is filled with morons, and that's on both sides of the political spectrum. There are some people, they have no idea what the hell they're voting for. They're just voting because their best friend's cousin's uncle's roommate says vote for this person, and that's it. I feel like people are very ignorant when it comes down to their politicians, which is why it's really important for why voting does in fact matter. But here's the thing, Lactoid, I agree with you. We do need to learn our imperfections, but the thing is, though, it's not taught nearly enough. Honestly, if I was to say one book should be required, A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. Everybody needs to read that book at least once because it gives a complete detailing of history. Now, it's not bashing history. It's not bashing the American people. It's just talking about this is what happened. And this is what did actually happen because we need to learn from these things in order to make sure that we don't do that shit ever again. Because like the saying goes, those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it because yes, we did great in World War II, but we got to remember Russia was a very critical part of that. And the main reason why they were able to win though is because Hitler lost half of his forces because Russia is fucking cold as shit. That's why.
There's no studies proving that.
But anyway, the USSR helped us win that war. And then guess what happened afterwards? We ended up repatriating people back to Russia to die in the gulags, which is a horrible thing. It was called Operation Killhole. But the thing is like when it comes down to elections and stuff like that, and when it comes down to like love, listen, again, I do love my country. There's a lot we need to improve upon. This is why voting definitely does matter. And this is why I'm definitely just give you a shameless plug right here. This is why, like, for the U.S. Senate, I'm definitely voting for Abdul El-Sayed. That's like the best candidate we have to run for U.S. Senate in the state of Michigan. Go Abdul El-Sayed, and I rest my case.
Go Abdul Al-Sayed. Yeah, we love him. I love. Sorry, I'm not going to put my friend.
Sounds like a terrorist. No, I'm kidding.
Who
I'm
the
kidding.
fuck is
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Let's go to our friend Corey.
Well, I agree with you, Prime, that America isn't all bad. I think that's a pretty good sentiment. And like as a Canadian, you know, whatever 10, 15 years ago, you know, there was, you know, some affection between Canada and the United States, but like that seems to have been broken, or rather, you know, the friendship and alliance was severed, not by Canada, but by whatever the current leader of the United States. And I think that's gonna be interesting how that plays out. But yeah, you can find me on Twitch, Corey Campbell 84, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, Substack, TikTok. It's Corey Campbell. Alex, Tom, Lactwood, always a pleasure. Love you, Prime.
Love to your friend. Let's go finally to our friend Tom. And again, Tom, I'm always happy that you're around, even we were constantly disagreeing. I'm really happy that you could join us, friend.
Appreciate you inviting me. Yeah, the way that I normally talk about this on my channel is that I think throughout history, you can kind of see that there's like top dogs that everybody fucking hates. So you can look at the Romans, you can look at the British Empire, you can look at the Ottoman Empire, you can look at like Sargon and so many different groups that everybody kind of fucking hated because they were just not great at being the top dogs. And the United States seems like, you know, the first, especially in modern history, to be good at being the superpower, and that everybody didn't hate them being the superpower as much. I am not going to say that they're obviously in the Middle East and or swaths of Africa. There are places that are very upset, you know, even Central America. But I think overall, like the world has been improved with the United States being the superpower and us pushing for things like the UN and the Geneva Convention and the forget what it was called right after World War I that kind of failed, the
League of Nations.
Yeah,
the League of Nations. Yes, these are things that just even the concept of them for the majority of human history would be absolutely asinine. Giving up power in these ways and giving up control and allowing autonomy and telling countries, hey, just draw your lines and stay where you're at and don't continue you know, with the imperialism and colonization and taking over more areas. Like we want to end the wars, and we have come to, while again, not the best, but the most peaceful time in human history, with the least amount of warring and the least amount of imperialism and the least amount of death and violence. And we have, I think the United States has been a great force in the world for creating a much better world than what there was before the United States. And that doesn't mean that we're perfect. And I agree with what was said before, that because we're critical of ourselves, because we bring up things like slavery and, you know, what happened with the Native Americans and the Trail of Tears and all these things. We bring these things up pretty consistently because we are critical of ourselves and because we know that we haven't had a perfect history, that this is part of what makes our country great. And that's obviously not the case in countries like China and other places where they sell a much more glamorized version of themselves pretty consistently. Is that, yeah, I think that we're always trying to improve and better realize our values, and that's that I think that is the thing to be celebrated and the thing that makes me proud.
I
to
think
be
Prime
an
loves what you're saying. He loves it.
Mhm.
I think that
He's got ADS. He can't. He's
the
freaking out right now.
You already gave your
I
closing
think-
statement. You already gave your closing statement.
Panel's over.
I think
Panel's
that-
over.
already
We're
gave
calling
your
it.
closing statement.
I think that leftists.
Thanks
do
for
the hard
having
work
me
of
on, guys.
constantly-
Appreciate it.
I think leftists. Hold on a second. I think that leftists do the hard work of like bringing these things up over and over again, right? And trying to get us to not only just like examine them and acknowledge they happened, right, which is a battle in of itself, but also to do something about it, to actually take action about this. Liberals will bring up the things that happened in the past, right? Safely in the past, where no one's who was responsible is in charge, right? And then they can safely say, well, those people are bad guys. But our current wars, well, see, those are good things. Our current genocides, well, I see, like we had no choice. The situation is too complicated. You don't understand, right? The current
Liberals aren't in
massacres
favor
that
of
we're
the
a part of.
current wars.
No, it's not a
Liberals-
problem. So there's
Liberals
that.
were against the Iraq War. Liberals are against
Yeah,
the Iran
only
war
be-
currently.
yes,
Liberals
yes,
are against
yeah,
these things, not just leftists.
Yeah, because George W. Bush was the one who started them. I used to think, yeah, that maybe they had like some sort of
No, Hillary
principled
Clinton and
stance
liberals
against
were
that.
in favor of it
George W.
initially.
Bush was against that, right? But then, like the political establishment of
No,
liberals were
Hillary
perfectly
Clinton was
happy.
in favor of it. Joe Biden was in favor of it.
Sorry, I gotta finish my thoughts here before I lose what I'm saying. And conservatives, right? When we bring this up, conservatives acknowledge, I guess, slavery happened, right? But they spend most of their time trying to equivocate,
it.
right? And forgive and say like, well, it happened to so long ago. And are you trying to make me personally feel guilty? Is it because I'm white?
Black
is it because
people are
I'm white?
better
Is that
off
the big problem?
because
This
they
is what
were
we
enslaved.
have. So when you're talking about like people trying to get others to like reminisce and actually like reckon with the history of America, yeah, it does happen, right? Yeah, mostly on the left. This happens on the right. They pretend they live in the delusions of an imagined past. Most of the time, they're trying to get back to that and then denying everything. It's like, and then coming up with words with terms like American derangement syndrome. Literally, that's part of it. Literally, that's part of it. Right? Because hey, how dare you? How dare you remind us, make us uncomfortable all the time, Prime, about what America is doing? How could you? It must be a derangement. Now I know again, my friend was saying this in jest, but
I'm updating it.
Fits
Western
into the-
derangement syndrome.
Good.
WDS.
That's even
True.
better. That's good.
Much
It fits
is
within this pattern though. That they don't actually really want to deal with this. They just kind of want to acknowledge it, but they want to move on, right? And talk about all the good things, right? All the hot dogs, all the cherry pies, or whatever the fuck, the muscle cars. And look at my guns, guys. Look at all the guns I had. Do you remember the Second Amendment? Hey, Corey, did you remember the Second Amendment? That was the thing. Yeah.
You guys are way undercounting that. That's fucking awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
It's pretty fucking awesome.
So understood. 14th Amendment, I think, much better. But I don't know. But thank you. Thank you,
one's pretty
guys.
good.
Anyone, if someone wants to respond to me, you can. But okay.
New panel
then
starts
thank you,
now.
guys.
I also like the 14th Amendment, to be clear. Pretty cool.
Sorry, I muted the panel. What did you say?
All right. Well, I'm gonna raid out to one of
Oh, shit.
Lactoid's
Actually, did just that.
Lady Loves, this woman who is a Findom goddess. I'm sure I'll have lots of things to say to her. So raid now. Okay.
What's up, friends? What's up? Time to raid. Time to raid. 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 Okay, here we go. Raid. Who are we raiding? I'm gonna raid my boy Parallax. Raid my boy Parallax. You guys enjoy your beautiful night, and I will see you guys next time.